This is the moment that a lot of us have been waiting for a very, very long time, and it's finally here. We got Mexico versus South Africa, and let's just do a quick preview and predictions here, because while I do think that this is going to be an entertaining game, I don't think that it's going to be entertaining in a tactical sense, because I don't think there's much of a tactical breakdown that you can give for the World Cup inaugural game. The world is watching, there's nerves abound from both sides. To a certain extent, tactics might go out of the window, but overall, I think that Mexico does have the talent to beat Bafana, and I'll tell you why. And it's also just very simple. It doesn't have to do with any player matchups. We're not going to go in too deep about the 1v1s. I'll put it very simply. Mexico is a beast on set pieces, and South Africa is bad at set pieces. And I don't mean Michael Jackson bad. I'm talking about real, awful, horrible defending. We'll get to my predictions in a moment, but I know for a fact that every single set piece will be very dangerous for the South Africans. And I think our defense is simply too good at shutting down offenses that I don't think it will be that close of a match, although I do think that South Africa is a very talented squad. Now let's talk about Lyle Foster for a second, because I've heard from both sides of the equation, Mexico fans and South African fans, that he will be a very important part of this game and just South Africa's hopes in the World Cup in general. And while I agree that he's a good player, and I don't agree with Mexican fans that are saying that he's trash, just because he got relegated with Burnley, like, you guys know you're watching football, right? This isn't basketball. One player cannot carry an entire team. There was so many other factors to the relegation. The same way that a lot of people try to shit on Mexican players for not playing at the top clubs, although when they are put in a group together, especially with Javier Aguirre's system, they become greater than the sum of their parts. A lot of national teams are walking around here boasting amazing players from all around the world, from the best clubs, but a lot of them won't go that far in this tournament, simply because number one, they don't have the home field advantage, and number two, they are not cohesive. For example, I don't think a lot of the Asian teams will go far in this World Cup, simply because they're not used to playing in an environment like Mexico, like the US, at their times, at their schedules, and away from home. Tangent aside, let's go back to Lyle Foster. I think he will get shut down like Drake at the Marquee. We'll get to my starting 11 in a second, but I think we'll be very physically dominant on defense and offense. They definitely have some speed up top, and that's something that we don't have in our defense, or really just our squad in general. But I'm not too worried about that. Again, I think our defense is very solid and cohesive. Mexico going forward is dangerous. And yes, I do mean in a Michael Jackson way now. And that's something that I haven't been able to say for a long time. We have a lot of creative attacking vision in the team, whether it be Brian Gutierrez, Alvaro Fidalgo, or Gilberto Mora. That coupled with our forwards, mostly Julián Quiñones and Raúl Jiménez, we're not counting Piojo in this, and you have an offensive structure that might not be the best in the world or world class in any way, shape, or form, but it will definitely get the job done against South Africa. I watched South Africa at the AFCON, and their game against Angola, man, I cannot unsee that. They won that game 2-1, I believe, but Angola scored a set piece, and they looked dangerous on every set piece against South Africa. Again, the tactical breakdown is very cut and dry. Mexico is good at set pieces, and South Africa is bad at defending them. I don't know what the obsession is with comparing what clubs these players play for. Like, no, of course I don't think that the South African League is as good as Liga MX, but I think that the World Cup serves as a bit of an equalizer. It's not all about where you play. Now let's get to my starting 11, because it's not going to be that much different than the starting 11 that we saw against Serbia. I got Talar Rangel, Jesus Gallardo, Johan Vázquez, Cesar Montes, Israel Reyes, Eric Lira, Brian Gutierrez, Alvaro Fidalgo, Julián Quiñones, Raúl Jiménez, and Piojo Alvarado. The only change that I made in this starting 11 is putting Reyes instead of Jorge Sanchez. Jorge Sanchez really shouldn't even be at this World Cup. If it wasn't for Huescas' injury a couple months ago, he wouldn't even have a look. But he snapped that one wish willow and wished for Huescas' knee to explode. Also, Reyes really does have a bit of an aerial presence as well, which will just add to the set piece danger. We also have Eric Lira here. I know that I mentioned that Edson's probably going to start against South Africa, and I wouldn't be surprised if he does, but it worries me that he hasn't had that much time to play in these recent friendlies, and he's a yellow card magnet and an accident waiting to happen. I think I agree with Vasco on this one. I don't trust Edson, at least for the inaugural game. Another thing to point out here is that I didn't include Mora in our starting 11, and unfortunately, I think that is going to be the case. I don't think it's that unfortunate though, because Brian Gutierrez is a great replacement. He truly deserves to be starting over Mora, although I do hope that he comes off of the bench. Whether or not he's going to score, man, I hope so. That would be an amazing World Cup moment, and that's going to add at least 10 million to Mora's transfer fee. We got Raúl Jiménez maxing at the 9 here, and it's very possible that he scores in this inaugural game as well. I know he's never had a World Cup goal, but I think he's going to surprise a lot of people at this World Cup. It's also very possible that we get a penalty, in which case Raúl Jiménez is going to get an easy penalty goal, and that's the starting 11. I think that's pretty solid. As for the predictions, I'm going a very modest 2-0. I do think that it's going to be dominant, but every Mexico fan needs to accept that we're basically Arsenal now. We get goals on set pieces and then sit back and defend. It's not going to be pretty, but that's our style. We're not going to score 5 past these guys, but I do think that we're going to dominate almost the entire game. I'm going to go with a goal from Johan Vázquez in like the 30th minute on a corner. He's going to lift off like a SpaceX rocket and send an absolute missile to the bottom corner. Elon Musk will be crashing out, and I'll sell all of my Tesla stocks. And I'll go with Raúl Jiménez scoring a penalty goal in like the 60th minute before he gets taken off. So yeah, I'm going with 2 set-piece goals. As far as what I want to happen, and I would love to see Mora on the score sheet, getting his first Mexico goal in the inaugural game of the World Cup, setting the record as the youngest World Cup goal scorer in all of history, and that would absolutely light up the world. And that's not a South Africa power grid joke, by the way. Another thing that I could see happening, which I mentioned in a previous video, dude, I could totally see Jesus Gallardo or Jorge Sanchez score a goal in this game. I could just see it happen. It's always the ones that you don't want to score, but I'll take a goal from either of them anyways. But there you go, I got 2-0. I do think that we're going to keep a clean sheet. I think we're pretty good on defense, so that's the opening game. 3 points and ready for the next match. Mexico versus South Africa. Man, there is just so much to talk about with this World Cup inaugural game and not enough time to talk about it. So let's just get right into the breakdown. Listen, was this the weirdest World Cup inaugural game ever? I mean, was it 3 red cards? South Africa completely imploded. Mexico looked like we could have scored at least 3 more. But like I told you guys, we are basically Arsenal. We make it ugly. We don't score many goals, but we get the job done. And it was very important to get the job done in this inaugural game because this game pretty much sets the stage for our entire tournament. And I guess let's just start from the beginning because, first of all, the ceremony was very good. I'm glad it wasn't super grand or like Americanized like the Super Bowl halftime show. I mean, it was grand, don't get me wrong. But in terms of virality, it was the game that got everyone's attention. It was Sithol's performance, it was Quiñones, it was so many other things, it was a red card. We'll get into all that. But the inaugural ceremony was great. I'm glad that it was what it was. And I got goosebumps listening to the Mexican national anthem. It really set the stage for this game and the entire tournament. And when I saw the vibes in the stadium, the pre-match vibes, the national anthem, I knew there was no way we were going to lose. Well, I kind of knew that from the start, but again, when I saw all those vibes pre-match, I knew that this game was going to be a little bit different, and I said from the very beginning, if you guys watched my preview, tactics to a certain extent will go out of the motherfucking window. And I was right because from the opening minute, yes, we dominated possession, but we were very nervous. And so were the South Africans, definitely. They never really got into rhythm. But both teams were very, very nervous. Mexico is basically Arsenal. Things aren't going to be pretty, but we got the job done. I got the score correct, 2-0. I got one of the goal scorers correct, Raúl Jiménez. We'll talk about Quiñones in a second. I also got the starting 11 correct. The only change that I made from the Serbia match was putting Reyes instead of Jorge Sanchez, and I think that was the right call. Reyes had a decent game, for sure. He certainly did better than what Jorge Sanchez was probably going to do. But okay, enough glazing myself, okay? Because here's something that I got wrong, right? And I did say that tactics were going to go out the window, but I did also say that set pieces were going to be the difference, and they really weren't. We didn't really look dangerous on set pieces at all this game, and I think I want to chalk that down to nerves. Okay, this isn't to say that we're not dangerous on set pieces, it's just that this game we didn't really look as dominant as I thought we were going to be. I'll tell you what was dominant though, and that was the man himself, Julián Quiñones, the real Saudi prince. He was the only player on the field that I feel like nerves didn't even affect him at all. Everyone else was nervous. Brian Gutierrez was making every mistake in the book. We'll talk about him in a second. But Julián Quiñones, man, he was everywhere. He was on every attack. He was creating chances. Even for Raúl Jiménez's goal, he's the one that played the ball to Piojo. We'll talk about Piojo as well. But this guy, the only reason he got subbed off is because he was tired. And when he got subbed off, the game immediately went dead. Alexis Vega, man, he did not have a great game. Eric Lira. Let's talk about Eric Lira. He deserved to be here. He absolutely deserved to be here. The vision that he had to catch the South Africans making a mistake at the back was honestly something that we should have done more of, because we definitely could have scored a lot more if we went for it attacking wise. But Lira had the vision to get that ball over to Quiñones, to force the mistake by Sethol, and the Saudi Prince himself slotted it right in between the goalkeeper's legs. And I was buzzing, man. I was jumping up and down. I was so happy. I knew that this was going to happen. We were bound to score in at least the first 20 minutes of the game. Shout out to Julián Quiñones. Now let's talk about Brian Gutierrez, because he did not have a bad game. I'm seeing everyone and their dog talking about how Brian Gutierrez was looking really nervous and he was just a bad player this game. That's not true at all. If you watch the game, yes, he could have scored. Honestly, should have scored twice, because on that one where he drew the red card, he was one-on-one with the goalie. So if he didn't get that red card, that was a straight up goal. But yes, he was very nervous. The one where he should have scored, I'm thinking specifically about that one chance, I think it was in the first half, where he just hit it completely wrong. That doesn't happen if you're locked in. You know, Quiñones would have taken a touch to the outside and slotted it home. But Brian Gutierrez had a great game. He really was all over the pitch. Defensively, he was doing his job. Let's pump the brakes on this guy, because he's a very, very good player. If you saw him in all the friendlies, this was his worst game, probably. But again, it was nerves. This was his worst game and he still played really good. So shout out to Brian Gutierrez. And I also want to talk about this, okay? Because you've heard of haram ball, okay? But have you heard of apartheid ball? Because that's exactly what South Africa was playing in the first half. I don't know what Hugo Broos was thinking, but this game was absolutely diabolical from this man. You can talk about all the mistakes. The back five, Lyle Foster ghosted. Sethol, man, Sethol. It's so unfortunate to have a name like Sethol, because your slander name is right there. It's right there for the taking, okay? I'm not going to do too much jumping for joy, because South Africa really was shambolic this game. I predicted South Africa to be our easiest game of the World Cup, and I think this game pretty much proved it. I can't really imagine a world where either Korea or Czechia do worse than this South African side. And another thing to point out as well, I didn't realize that so many African countries really hated South Africa. I mean, I know Mexico's liked all around the world, but South Africa is hated all around the world, especially Africa. I saw Nigerians say that if South Africa were playing in an empty stadium, they would support the stadium, okay? So, I didn't know they hated so much, man. Jesus. But I do like South Africa, okay? I hope they bounce back. You know, I feel a little bit bad, but I do hope that they bounce back. Another thing that I want to talk about, Montes, okay? A lot of people are hating on Montes for his red card. And you know what? I'm hating as well, but this might be a blessing in disguise. To be honest, Montes is a red card magnet. He's a red card magnet, you know, and this is why you take a replacement center back, because this is gonna happen. And it happened in our first game. And now we have to play with a different center back. And again, this might be a blessing in disguise, because that center back might end up being better than Montes. And you can point to probably an Edson Álvarez. That's probably who I'm thinking. Probably also Luis Romo, maybe a Israel Reyes, and then put Jorge Sanchez in the right back position. So you do have options there, but I would have liked to see a replacement center back, man. Whatever. We got the job done. We got the job done. And again, it was ugly. It was nasty. It wasn't the cleanest of games. And I think this Montes red card is the reason why there's not much buzz. Well, there is buzz. Absolutely there's buzz. Let me rephrase that. It was a great match from Mexico, but we definitely could have done more. And I think it left a little bit of a sour taste in a lot of Mexican fans' mouths, because of this red card. And I say pump the brakes because, again, I think it might be a blessing in disguise. And, you know, it kind of wasn't deserved anyways. The 2 red cards that South Africa got, they were deserved. Brian Gutierrez, yes, it was a soft foul, but he was a last man. Easily red card. Piojo Alvarado got smacked in the face. That was an easy red card as well. No one saw it until the VAR pulled it up. But yes, he did get smacked in the face. But this Montes red card was low-key not deserved. It was definitely a yellow for the challenge because it was pretty harsh, but this man was definitely not denying him a clear goal-scoring opportunity. Now let's talk about Piojo. Okay, let's talk about Piojo. But I was right about this dude, I really was. Go back and watch my video where I say one positive about each World Cup squad player. And the thing that I say about Piojo is that he's a workhorse. Say what you want about his attacking talent, but the guy is everywhere, and he was everywhere on the pitch today. He made some mistakes, but yes, those are just Piojoisms. That's gonna happen every game. But he was rock solid on defense, he drew the red card, he sent in a perfect ball to Brian Gutierrez, who also drew a red card, and then he sent an absolute dime to Raúl Jiménez in the second half. I think the Piojo slander needs to stop here, because yes, he has been diabolical in other matches, in friendly games, but this is where it matters most. And listen, I'll slander him too, okay? I'm an America fan. By the way, Quiñones and Raúl Jiménez both scoring the goals, absolutely amazing moment for all of us America fans. But regardless, colors aside, and when I say colors, I mean like America versus, you know, other Liga MX teams. I don't mean skin color. But colors aside, we gotta give Piojo his flowers. And I'm doing that here. Shout out to Piojo. What is going on, everyone? It is Utopic Draco Future. And listen, we've played these games before, and I'm not just talking about Son playing the real life equivalent of the Squid Game, okay? I mean, we've actually played South Korea before in the 2018 World Cup. So we're gonna run it back. And I am very excited for this game because number one, this is shaping up to be the most important game of the group now that Korea has won their game against Czechia and we obviously won against South Africa. But also, it's going to be very exciting because this has the potential to be the easiest game of our group, okay? And I know that's a hot take, but I will be explaining it. I will definitely be explaining it. And I think most of it has to do with all of the nerves that we are feeling in our very first game, the inaugural game. There was a lot of things riding on that first match, okay? But this is going to be a little bit different because rather than tactics going out the window with the South Africa match, there are things that I noticed from Korea against Czechia that I want to highlight in this video. And I don't know if a lot of you saw that game, but if you did, you'll agree with me. You'll know why I'm saying the things that I'm saying, because that game was very, very, very telling. And it's going to be different than South Africa because, again, it was the inaugural game. We had to get the nerves out. To a certain extent, tactics went out the window, okay? I had a whole explanation about how set pieces are going to be the difference, and they ended up not really being the difference. The reason why we won really comes down to the fact that we were better, which I'm tired of thinking that it's always some tactical, breakdown that you have to give to why a team won against another team. Sometimes it really is just as simple as our team is better, our players are better, and that's what it came down to here. It's like, why is a Ferrari faster than a Corolla? It just is, So let's get right into it, okay? We'll talk about how to defend Korea, okay? Because we're very defensively minded, so we're going to put defense first in this game and really just our entire tournament as a whole. So we'll get into how to defend a team like Korea. And you saw this in the Czechia game if you did watch it. First of all, this is something that we're going to use very, very heavily and something that we have to use in order to win this game. We have to use our physical strength, okay? A famous man once said that we have to impose our will. And that's exactly what we have to do here, okay? We have a lot of crafty vets in the squad, so we have to impose our will, number one, against South Korea. You saw it in the Japan friendly when we played them almost a year ago now. And yes, we drew that game, okay? But the main thing that I want to highlight is that we used our physical strength, okay? We can't dominate these CONMEBOL teams because they are stronger than us, they're faster than us, and they can make the game ugly better than we can, okay? They're uglier than us in many ways, okay? All right? So that's the number one thing that I want to highlight when you talk about defending a team like South Korea, because you saw it against Czechia. They had a lot of strong, tall players that can really impose their will against the short, speedy South Koreans, especially in the midfield, especially in the defense. And that's exactly how we beat this team going forward. Another thing that I want to highlight, Lira. He is going to be very important, and I have no doubt that he's going to start this match, not only because he had an amazing game against South Africa, but also because he's just the exact type of player that you want to see against a team like Korea, okay? He's very good at defending the middle spaces, playing in tight. One thing that I noticed about Korea when they tried to attack is that they would play these short balls in the center, touch the ball very tightly and quickly, and then try to find the ball either to Son or whoever was the forward at the time. They will no doubt be trying to do the same thing against us because we're not that fast at all. I love Johan Vazquez, but he is not the fastest player in the world, okay? This is what they're going to try to do. They're going to touch it on the inside, they're going to use their wide players, they're going to dribble in between us, and Lira is going to be very important in this game, okay? He has to have a good game if we want to win this. Another thing I want to highlight, speed, okay? These South Koreans are very speedy, okay? They're not that tall, they're not that physical, but they are speedy and they're fast and they're quick with their feet. I'll get to my starting 11 in a moment, but our fullbacks are going to be very important. And our wing players are going to be very important as well. I'm looking at Piojo, okay? He's going to, again, he has that workhorse mentality. You have to be working very hard against a team like South Korea, especially on the wings. They're very fast. They're very speedy. They're going to want to take one or two players on. We have to rely on players like Piojo Alvarado. Spoiler alert, I'm not going to start Jorge Sanchez for this game, although I wouldn't be surprised if he does, okay? Don't hate me. Don't come at me in the comments. I don't want him to start either, but don't be surprised if Vasco goes with Jorge Sanchez, okay? He is undoubtedly faster than Israel Reyes. Say what you want about his defensive ability. This is very important to defend South Korea. Their formation also allowed for a lot of wing play, okay? They had sort of a Christmas tree formation, but that also kind of allows you to double up on wingers, and then you have an absolutely explosive Son on the inside. Not Son like, you know, my son, but like Heung-Min Son. So that's really how you do it, okay? We're going to want to take their wingers to corners, okay? We're going to be dominant in the air. Now let's move on to how to attack a team like South Korea, okay? What we're going to want to do, again, is impose our will. Use that crafty vet experience. Bully them a little bit, okay? Against Czechia, we saw a lot of plays where they just got out-muscled. It's a give and a take, for sure, because when you're not that strong, you can be speedy and you can be good with your feet, which is why the defense is so important, and a lot more important than it will be against, you know, a Czechia or, you know, obviously how it was against South Africa. Our defense really, really has to shine this game. But back to the attack. Of course, we're going to have to bully their players. Julián Quiñones, I'm going to rely on you a lot. And I know he's on fire, so the Koreans are definitely going to be looking at him as a potential threat. But Quiñones is the main player that we're going to have to rely on for strength, speed, his ability to take and open up space. This is something that I didn't even mention in my breakdown of the South Africa game. But in my video where I say one positive thing about each Mexico squad player, great video by the way, go check it out if you haven't already. I mentioned something about Quiñones that no one talks about, and it's the fact that he's so good on the transition. No, not like Kylian Mbappe. I mean like when we attack and we're on the transition from defense to attack, this is the guy that you rely on, okay? He's the one that sent the ball over to Piojo, and then obviously Piojo sent a perfect ball over to Raúl Jiménez for his goal. It was started by Julián Quiñones on the transition. Okay, so this guy is going to be absolutely crucial in this game. We'll get to him in a little bit later when we talk about the substitutions, but let's go back to some other ways to attack them, okay? You're going to want to put things in the air, okay? Put balls in the air, put crosses in the air, put everything in the air. Guys, if you saw the Czechia game, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Czechia scored 2 goals off of a set piece, which I think both were throw-ins. One of them was offside, and they called it offside. But the other one, I mean, the player was wide open for the header, okay? And this is going to be our key, okay? This is the one where I'm saying that set pieces are actually going to be the difference, okay? I actually mean it this time. We are going to be dominant in the air against South Korea, and they know that. They're going to rely on a Kim Min-jae to mark Johan Vazquez or Raúl Jiménez or whoever you want to put as an aerial threat on the corner. Set pieces will be the difference. And crosses, just crosses in general will be the difference. Wide players, I need you to focus on getting crosses and getting corners. The complete opposite on how to defend Korea. We actually want to go to the wings as far wide as possible so that we can get the cross and we can use our physical ability. Gallardo, he did not have the best game against South Africa because all of his crosses were pretty much a non-threat. I don't think Mateo Chavez is going to start against Gallardo. Okay, I hate to say it. I would like for him to start. I don't think he's that much better at crosses, but I would still like for him to start. But I know he's not going to, okay? Guys, let's get rid of this. Vasco's not going to choose Mateo Chavez. I'll talk about it in a second. But Gallardo, I really need you to have a fucking game, man. Have a game. So that's what I mean. Again, impose our will. get crosses in the air, get anything in the air, and Quiñones is going to be very, very crucial. Okay, let's get to my projected starting 11, and I don't think there's going to be that much of a difference from what we saw from South Africa, so we're going to keep it pretty safe. The main thing that I want to highlight is Edson Álvarez instead of Cesar Montes. Obviously with the red card, I don't think that we're going to see someone like Romo come in instead of Edson. He hasn't had minutes quite yet. And I don't think that we're going to see Reyes on the inside and then Jorge Sanchez out wide. Like I said, I could be completely wrong, and Jorge Sanchez could start on that right side. I would hate to see it though, but this is my 11, so I would definitely put Israel Reyes. Again, he's not the fastest, but I'm going to also just rely on Piojo, who had a great game against South Africa, to be on the defensive. Probably more than the offensive. I know that he had a pretty good offensive game as well, but you're going to have to be more defensive this time, buddy. Another big change that I made, okay? Luis Chavez instead of Brian Gutierrez. I personally chose this not because Brian Gutierrez had a bad game, okay? Let's get that out of our minds. I talked about it in my last video. Brian Gutierrez did not have a bad game. He was nervous for sure, but he was also everywhere on the pitch. That's not the reason why I chose Luis Chavez in this spot instead of Brian Gutierrez though. A couple things when it comes to Luis Chavez. Long shots, okay? Let's get that out of the way. Long shots, of course. Different look on the attack. Left-footed corners. Left-footed corners, y'all. He can put the ball in the box. You can rely on someone like Fidalgo or, I don't know, even Piojo. Piojo was taking corners for whatever reason. I don't know why the fuck he was taking corners. But anyways, you can rely on those players for the right-footed corners. Luis Chavez for the left-footed corners. Luis Chavez for the left-footed free kicks, if you want to say that. And also, which is going to be the main thing here, is his defensive capabilities, which I think are better than Brian Gutierrez as a whole. Okay, that's mainly the reason why I chose Luis Chavez in this spot. Now, you could say, if you're Vasco, maybe you're thinking about Álvaro Fidalgo instead. So, you know, maybe putting Brian Gutierrez and Luis Chavez instead of Luis Chavez and Álvaro Fidalgo. To that I say, yeah, maybe. Yeah, I mean, I guess. But the reason why I chose Fidalgo in that spot is because Fidalgo can also defend a bit like Eric Lira. Not as good, but he's everywhere on the pitch. And he's very good at defending the tight spaces, okay? I saw him at America. He's very good at defending the tight spaces. That's going to be, like I mentioned, very crucial against a team like Korea. So that was my thought process, okay? But you could really swap out Luis Chavez, Fidalgo, and Brian Gutierrez. We'll talk about Mora in a second, okay? And you guys are going to have to hear me out on my Mora take, okay? Mora is a big hear me out. Pause. Wait, hold up. Pause. Let's stop that. And then, of course, the top three, that's not going to change. Julián Quiñones, Raúl Jiménez, and Piojo Alvarado. For subs, we'll talk about the sub for Julián Quiñones. But I'll also go with like a Brian Gutierrez for the midfielders. Maybe like a Romo towards the end of the game when Lira gets tired from carrying this fucking squad. I could see Jorge Sanchez go in for Reyes towards the end of the game if he doesn't start. That's just the unfortunate reality. And then the main thing that I want to highlight is that I can see Memote going in instead of Hormiga. Okay, I know that a lot of you are saying Guadalajara, but I'm sorry, I just don't see someone like Hormiga going in. Nor do I see Santi, okay? I see Memote Martinez, and for good reason. The dude is tall. That's why Vasco brought him. Aerial dominance. That's what I've been saying this entire video. That's what Memote can bring. Don't be surprised if he gets subbed on for Raúl in like the 60th minute or 70th minute. I don't even know, but don't be surprised. Now let's talk about the left wing position, and more specifically left wing sub, because a lot of you are wondering where Mora is in all this. What I would like to see happen with Mora is him playing left wing, okay? Him playing left. Come on, let's please, okay? Did you guys see the Uruguay game? Mora also played left wing in the U20 World Cup and had a great game. I know it's the U20 World Cup, but Mora, guys, this is just, please, okay? If I was Vasco, I would do this because our midfield is already really good. I'm not saying that Mora doesn't have a place in the midfield. That's not at all what I'm saying, okay? And I don't think this will happen at all, but this is what I would personally do. I think he's very good at the left wing position. If you saw Mora in the last match against South Africa, and I was watching the kid. Hold up. Okay, stop. But I was watching him play, and he was non-stop going forward in the midfield position. He wanted his goal. He was going forward. I think maybe going a little too forward than I would like, but he was, if you saw a ball get played to the wide players, you would look at the attack and you would see Hormiga and Mora. The kid wanted to go forward. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm not saying that's a bad thing at all. But what I'm saying is let's play to his strengths. Again, this is my take. This probably won't even happen, okay? This is a long shot from happening. But Mora is so good at taking on 2 or 3 players on the wing. If you double him up, he will take on those players and he will send in a good cross with the extra space that he created. Okay, Vasco, do this, please. But it's not going to happen. He's probably going to sub him in for like a Brian Gutierrez or a Fidalgo or a Luis Chavez, whoever starts in that midfield, which again, I am not opposed to that whatsoever. Mora is an insane midfielder, but I would just like to see him at left wing, mostly because Vega is so dog shit. And I don't know why it took me so long to say it, but Vega is so dog shit, at least in the last game. Of course, I do think he's a good player. Don't come at me, but Vega was so bad in that last game. I'm sorry. He was slow. He looked lazy. He looked fat, okay? He looked fat. As soon as you saw Vega come in the game for Quiñones, you saw the biggest dramatic shift in the game. We had almost no attack, and that's how it stayed until, you know, the game ended. So that's sort of the biggest reason, okay? I hope that you can hear me out on this one, because I do think Mora would be a million times better than Vega. But okay, a tangent aside, okay? Let's get to my predictions. I'm going 3-1. That's right, I'm going 3-1. Set piece goal will happen this time. That will happen. Okay, I'm saying maybe a Memote, probably a Johan Vasquez. I know I said that last time, but set pieces will happen this time, okay? I promise. Set pieces or corners or whatever, or crosses, I mean, that will happen. I know I said we're not a high scoring team, but I can see this being our easiest game, okay? Hot take. Truth nuke alert. I can see this being our easiest game. Not because they're the easiest opponents or whatever, but I'm just thinking about it from a tactical perspective, okay? Truth nuke alert. Truth nuke alert. This is the game where we're gonna have to stand on business when it comes to our tactics. We didn't have to do that against South Africa, okay? Tactics went out the window. The better team won. Like I said, Ferrari versus Corolla. But against Korea, we have to give them a respect of a team that deserves it, okay? So I think for that reason, we will play out of our minds, okay? We're still the home team. Don't forget that. And I'm sorry we have to play the Koreans. I really love the amistad that Mexico has towards Korea that pretty much started in 2018, I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken. But I love my South Koreans, okay? Let's be real here. And that's why I say you're gonna score on us. And I think this is probably gonna go into the form of, again, probably the tight spaces. You're gonna see maybe Heung-Min Son playing a good ball or receive a good ball towards the middle, beat us for speed and slot it home. Or I can see a penalty going in favor of the Koreans, okay? I could see that happening because Korea is a very good attacking team and our defense is very solid. Could I see us keeping a clean sheet? Possibly, but I do think that Korea is that good of an opponent that they will score at least one on us, but we'll still beat them 3-1, okay? So I'm going with a goal from Quiñones. I think he's on fire. Maybe a goal from Johan Vasquez or Memote, a goal from Heung-Min Son in like the second half, and maybe a finisher from like, I don't know, Brian Gutierrez or Mora or even Jorge Sanchez. Okay, let's be real here. But 3-1, I think that's a decent scoreline. What's up? It's current Utopic Draco Future here. If you haven't figured it out by now, this is a compilation video of all of my Mexico World Cup videos. So this is not new content. I guess this is the only new content in the video. I'll also have a pinned comment addressing this as well. I just wanted to step in here quickly to say that if you've made it this far and if you're enjoying the video, please like the video, please hype it up. It really helps out smaller channels like mine. You'll also like my other videos as well. I got more coming up for the future about the Mexican national team. So hit subscribe and also follow me on Instagram. I'm trying to be more active on there. It's just Utopic Draco Future. Link will be in the description. And if you made it this far in the video, let me know in the comments what you're doing while listening to or watching this video. And if you're sleeping, my bad. I didn't mean to wake you up. I just wanted to break the fourth wall there a little bit. So, all right, let's just get back into the video. What is going on, everyone? This is Utopic Draco Future, and I've just been having the most amazing time. And you want to know why? It's because I just hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. So thank you so much for the support, for the love, for the subscribers. That means the world to me. And I'm also very happy because we just won. And by we, I mean Mexico. I'm not on the team. I had some predictions about it. I predicted 3-1. I knew that Mexico is not a high goal scoring team, so I don't know why the fuck I chose 3-1. But I'm also very happy that we did not concede a goal, and that's very, very important. And also, Luis Romo. I mean, I never doubted him, personally. I've never had a single bad thing to say about Luis Romo. I didn't call him a fraud. I didn't make an entire video asking why the fuck he's in the squad. He deserves to be here, and he scored the only goal of the game, and I couldn't be more happy with this result. Listen, was it a boring game? Absolutely. It was atrocious. It was boring. To a neutral, you want to turn it off. But to a Mexico fan, this means so much. Number one, because a lot of players that we had doubts about proved themselves today, okay? I'm talking about Tala Rangel with his great save at the end, and he also just had an amazing performance overall. Luis Romo, number one, I mean, he really showed out today. Yes, he got the goal, but he was also pretty solid on defense as well. And Piojo Alvarado, I don't want to hear any more slander about Piojo. The dude had an absolute baller game. He had one in this game and the one before. You're hearing this from an America fan. Stop the Piojo slander, for God's sakes. The player is good. He was unstoppable on defense. As far as offense, he was definitely stoppable. But he created a lot of very good chances, okay? Piojo is a very good player. I don't want to hear any more slander, and you're hearing it from an America fan, so you know that something's up. And you're probably hearing a little bit of a theme here about what players showed out, and it's the Chivas players, okay? I'm not going to talk too much about the club form or, America versus Chivas or whatever, but I find it so interesting that America players and former America players were the ones that really showed out in the Azteca game against South Africa, and the players that really showed out in this game in Guadalajara were the Chivas players. I mean, there's just something really poetic about that, so I'm very happy to see that. Another thing that I want to talk about is the fact that we kept a clean sheet. Now, this means so much, okay? You guys have no idea what this really means. They had a couple of clear chances. A lot of them were offsides, but some of them just required something very, very special, and you need something very special to go far in this World Cup. I'm talking about Tala Rangel's save. Those saves will need to be done if you want to go far in a World Cup. You need to have a Bono-like tournament if you want to go far. And again, we were very close to conceding, but what I want to really stress, and if you guys watch CBS Sports, like Champions League coverage, or just Thierry Henry talk in general, something that TT always talks about is that football comes down to moments. A game can go one way, it can go another, it can be boring, it can be dominated by one team, it can have one team having all of the chances, but at the end of the day, it's the individual split-second moments that make all of the difference. He talks about it all the time when it comes to Champions League ties, and it's no different when it comes to international football, especially something like the World Cup, where huge, massive things are decided on little tiny moments. And that's exactly what we did today. Listen, we're going to have a lot of difficult games in the future, but this is a great showing. This result shows me that we're actually capable of that. And again, this is a very important win. I want to stress that South Korea is a very, very talented squad going forward and defending. And to go into the tactics of the game a little bit, I can't really speak too much about the South Korean tactics. I know I've seen a little bit of talk about how the South Korean play style and the manager didn't really set them up for success today, and I somewhat agree with that. But speaking on Vasco is the type of guy that stands on business when it comes to the tactics. He's very stubborn, he sticks to his game plan, and that's what you saw here. I've said in multiple other videos that Vasco has brought an identity to the squad that we haven't seen in many, many years. Now, that identity isn't exactly the most beautiful, picture-perfect football you've ever seen, but more than anything, it capitalizes on the opponent's mistakes, and it gets the job done, like you saw here today. Now, that's pretty much all that I've really predicted because, again, I got the score prediction horribly wrong. I also got the starting 11 horribly wrong. And here's what I thought it was going to be, okay? I had Luis Chavez and Alvaro Fidalgo in the middle, and then I had Reyes starting on the right back position instead of Jorge Sanchez. Now, I did say to not be surprised if Jorge Sanchez started, but regardless, yeah, this was kind of a bad prediction. I kind of stuck to what worked against South Korea, and I didn't think that Vasco was going to change that too much, but he did. Props to him, he did. Now, was it a little bit too defensive for my liking? For sure. And that's kind of why you saw the first half being completely dead. However, it wasn't dead because it was just not entertaining or not a tactical battle, because it was a chess match. In the first half, both teams were expecting not to concede. They didn't want to take too many chances. Mexico was passing it sideways and back. Korea was doing the same thing, but they also sent some long balls and tried to take advantage of their speed, which is also what I mentioned in the defense, okay? Because I mentioned that we would have to defend the tight middle spaces very well. We would rely on Lira for that, and he did have an amazing game, but so did Romo. He defended those middle spaces very well. We used our strength very well. We talked about Piojo. He had a very great game, going forward and going back. I swear the fucking guy was everywhere this game. And we held it down defensively, especially Edson. He had such an amazing game. He proved that he could hold it down as a center back. He's obviously not the fastest player in the world. We knew that. South Korea knew that, and he was trying to get exposed for speed, which he did many times. But they either got caught offside or they were just shut down by either Piojo, Jorge Sanchez, or this guy, Edson Álvarez. I also talked about how to attack South Korea, and this is something that I got completely wrong in my prediction. Because I said that set pieces were going to be our biggest source of attack. Yeah, we didn't get like a single set piece. I think we got maybe one free kick, if I'm not mistaken, which we didn't even send that into a cross. And we didn't get any corners. In fact, there was like 2 corners this entire game, and they were both Korean. And they were both in like the last couple minutes. Yeah, we didn't have set pieces at all. I still think that if we did, we would have been successful, but shoulda, woulda, coulda, we still won the game. Going forward, Quiñones did exactly what he was supposed to do, and what I said in my video. He used his strength, speed, and good transition play to open up the attack for us. And he should have scored that goal where he received that really good cross. He gave a really good cross to Raúl Jiménez as well, so he was giving and receiving. Pause. Quiñones is going to be such an important player for us in the future, man. If we want to go far, Quiñones will have to have the games of his life, and I think he's definitely capable of that. Just to speak briefly about the other players, I think Santi had a good game when he got subbed in first World Cup. Obed Vargas had a really good game, should have scored. Brian Gutierrez had a very quiet game, at least in the first half. He opened up a little bit more in the second half, but I would say that was definitely a negative. Chino Huerta didn't really have enough time to play, but already he was looking better than Alexis Vega. I was hoping to see Mora, more specifically on the left wing, and I'm sad that we didn't see him at all, but I kind of understood it if we were going to go defense first. Johan Vázquez, I mean, there's not enough gushing that I can do about Johan Vázquez, but he's an amazing player. Gallardo had a good game defensively, didn't really do what he was supposed to on the offense, but that's probably what he was told to do. Jorge Sanchez had some small good moments, but if you're talking about defending the right-hand side, specifically, that was all Piojo. Raúl Jiménez had a quiet game. He really should have finished that chance, but other than that, he did okay for a striker. Some people will look at the result and say that Mexico got lucky or whatever the case is, and while I don't disagree, what I really want to stress is that there's so many teams that would kill for a 1-0 result, okay? You're telling me that Spain wouldn't have loved a 1-0 against Cabo Verde, at least a 1-0? No, they drew. Every point, every attack, every goal is going to be very important in this World Cup. And the very best teams are going to be able to make something from nothing. And low-key, this was us kind of doing that. Now, what does that mean for the future of our tournament? I can't really make a statement on that yet, but I want to say also, when it comes to the clean sheet, that is so important. Again, this told me so much because South Korea is a great team offensively, guys. You're going to see it when they play South Africa. They're going to destroy South Africa because offensively, South Korea is insane. They're the best offensively in this group by far. But guess what? And this is going to be a hot take, truth nuke. Mexico has a top 10 defense in this tournament. I truly don't think that's a hot take, but some of you might. After the Czechia game, depending on how we do, I might have to say top 5. Okay, I'm sorry. I might have to say top 5. Hit like if you agree. But yeah, I was pretty much wrong about everything in this game. Overall, I'm glad that we got the victory, and I'm glad that we did what we were supposed to do. Guys, I just had a revelation, okay? Mexico is basically Sonic in Super Smash Bros. And y'all are just gonna have to hear me out on this one, okay? How do you play Sonic in Smash? Well, the most successful way is playing extreme defense. You play cautious, you play patient, you play hit and run, you wait for the opponent to make a mistake. And once you get a stock or a percent lead, you sit back and make sure you get hit as least as possible. And then you just ride out the rest of the game either by timeout or when your opponent gets so inevitably frustrated with that playstyle that they just smash their controller on the table and quit. Yeah, that's basically our playstyle. Sonic, Arsenal, Mexico, those are all of the same ilk. That's exactly what we did to Korea last game. And listen, let's get right into this video. I'm Utopic Draco Future. You can call me Utopic, you can call me Draco. Please don't call me Future though, because I am not Pluto. And let's get right into this video, okay? Listen, we gotta do the Koreans an absolute solid, okay? Because we're top of the group. We're guaranteed to be top of the group, and we need to help these guys out because, well, first of all, let's just start here. I've seen a lot of confusion for many people thinking that we still have a chance to get second. No. We're mathematically first place. So I'm here to clear up the confusion. Alright, this screenshot is taken directly from FIFA's website. This is the tie-breaking criteria for the World Cup groups. So if there's any sort of tie, this is what's going to be applied to determine the ranking. Okay, step 1, and this is in order, right? So this gets applied one after the other. The first thing that gets applied if there's a tiebreaker is greatest number of points obtained in the group matches between the teams concerned. So okay, just to give you an idea, this can pretty much be summed up by saying head-to-head results. So if the two teams played each other, it's whatever team won against that other team. It's the greatest number of points, but it's worded really wrong. It's just whoever won. Because the only thing that matters is who won. Because if they tie, they can just move on to the next tie-breaking criteria, which is what you're familiar with, goals, goal difference, and then, yeah, whatever else. But number 1, that's head-to-head. That's the main thing that's changed. So let's say the South Koreans win against, who do they play? South Africa? Yeah, they play South Africa. They're clearly going to win. In fact, I'm going like 4-0. They're probably going to win that by 4 goals. And then they'll be on 6 points. And then let's say Mexico loses to Czechia. We'll also be on 6 points. So both of us are on 6 points. However, with the new head-to-head rules, the tie-breaking criteria, it's whoever won between those two games, and Mexico has already played South Korea and we beat them. So in this case, we would go first no matter what. So let's do them a solid and beat Czechia, okay? Because that would guarantee them to be second. Let's help them out like they helped us out in 2018. And the way that we're going to do that here, in my opinion, is just with big rotations, okay? I really do think that we'll rotate quite a bit, even though we're still going to chase a win for this and 3 points. I saw the South Africa versus Czechia game, and it was very, very telling. It was 1-1. It's obviously not as simple as that, but I will definitely get into it as the video goes on, along with my previewed starting 11 and my prediction, which will definitely be wrong. First of all, let's start with the rotations, okay? Number 1 big thing, we got Memo Ochoa. I've heard a lot of people saying that he's going to start. Okay, I've heard reports that he's going to start as well. I personally don't think it's going to happen. If he does start, I think he'll just get a half, and then he'll be the first sub off of the half. What I think will actually happen is that he'll just be brought on in the second half. He'll have his little Mondragon moment for Colombia in 2018, if you remember that. And then we'll call it a day. We'll go back to Tala in the rest of the games. Now let's move on to the rest of the rotations though, because I have some takes about who's going to start. This is who I think is going to start against Czechia, okay? We got Tala, of course. We got Jesus Gallardo, Johan Vázquez, César Montes, and Israel Reyes. The biggest thing here is the return of César Montes. I don't think we'll see Edson in that center back position, although he is a great option. It's always good to know you have that option because he did have a banger against South Korea, and we got Reyes coming back in for Jorge Sanchez. I think that's going to be kind of a theme you'll see here is height more than anything. Czechia is the tallest squad in the entire World Cup. However, I think that, as we'll get into later, I don't think height will be as important as many people seem to think. But we'll go over it when we talk a little bit more about how to defend and how to attack Czechia. Let's go over the midfielders. Big thing here, Gilberto Mora. I just think he's going to start. I don't know. I don't know why, but please start this man. He's goated. We have not seen enough Gilberto Mora so far, and it's only been 2 games, I understand. But against South Africa, he didn't really do much, or more so, he didn't really get the chance to do much because it was all just Alexis Vega fucking up on that left side. The game was already kind of dead, and what you really want is to give Gilberto Mora free range to go do shit. And then we got Edson Álvarez in that holding mid position. I chose him instead of Lira. I would like to see him more in that holding mid position because we didn't really see him that much. At the end of the day, that's his natural position. I know he's done a great job when he's come in as a center back and as a holding mid. So there you go. That's Edson Álvarez. I think he's going to start here. I could be wrong though because Lira is tearing it up for sure. And I chose Álvaro Fidalgo here. He started against South Africa, didn't play at all against Korea. And we'll get into it a little bit later as far as why I want him to start. But you can also choose Obed in this spot. He's also had a very great game against South Korea. He had that goal that he could have scored. Shout out Obed Vargas, man. I totally predicted that he would not play at all. And I couldn't have been more wrong. He had an amazing game, and I'm glad I was wrong about that. He really changed things for the better when he did come in. Another important thing here, the starting 3 up front. We got Quiñones, Santi, and Piojo. The main change is Santi. I think he's going to start. I could be completely wrong. You could argue Memote maybe for height. You could probably throw in Raúl Jiménez, but I really don't think so since he's been the starter and he will be the starter for future games. But yeah, I would like to see Santi. He's kind of the odd man out right now, and he had an okay game against Korea, although, it's nothing to write home about. I just want to see more of Santi. Now let's talk about how to defend Czechia, okay? Like I mentioned, I don't think height will be as much of a factor as most people seem to think. I saw the game against Korea, and this is the one that I will go back to many times when it comes to defending and attacking. Czechia obviously scored off of the throw-in against South Korea. Yes, that is true, but it is not for the lack of height, as I and many other people seem to think. Okay, it was simply because the Koreans were not marking their man. So mark your players, keep track of your man. That can be applied in so many scenarios. But we're talking about football here. Johan Vázquez is really, really good at this, and he's going to be crucial in this game. Vasco knows this as well, so please mark your runners. Set pieces might be more of a factor, although I said that in the last game, and they kind of weren't. But there was 2 corners in that game, 2 set pieces in the entire Korea game. Neither of them were Mexico, especially Czechia, who are very dangerous and a serious aerial threat like 9/11. And we have to defend those with our lives, okay? Another thing, Piojo, Reyes, and Gallardo, keep playing your game, I think defensively at least. And I want to stress defensively, these players have been very, very solid. The offense can leave a bit to be desired, but we're talking about the defense so far, and they have kind of been on fire, to be quite honest, when it comes to the defense. Maybe Gallardo less so, but I've been satisfied with what I'm seeing with these 3 players so far. Johan Vázquez, Edson Álvarez, and Tala will be very important as well. And just to kind of give a little spiel on Tala, I fully trust this guy now. Against South Africa, I was not convinced, especially his very first touch on the ball, which, okay, you can chalk down to nerves at this point, but after the South Korea game, yeah, this guy's on fire. He definitely has top 2 save of the World Cup, right next to this guy right here, the Iranian goalkeeper. And if you haven't seen that save yet, go watch it. It's absolutely insane. It's against Belgium. Make this man Ayatollah already, okay? It's Iranian goalkeeper. I forgot what his name is. Okay, and let's talk about how to attack Czechia. Now, this is going to be very crucial. I put Fidalgo in an America jersey for a very specific reason, because these guys, Fidalgo, Quiñones, and Mora, will be very crucial for the link-up play through the middle. And I saw the Korea game. There's a lot of exploitation that you can do through the midfield. I mean, just look at this play right here with Inbaum. That's number 6. That's the guy that I have right here with the arrow. And the guy above him would be like where Raúl is. And the guy making the pass is like a Mora or a Fidalgo. So basically, the striker would just draw the defender in, and that allows Inbaum, or in this case Quiñones, to slot into that empty space, and then you play a great ball from Fidalgo. Listen, this is just an expert analysis, okay? Who else is giving you this analysis? Go ahead, name names. Who needs video analysis when you got Canva slides? That aside though, I guarantee you we're gonna score a goal like this in this game. We'll get to my prediction in a second, but I also want to bring up the speed on the wings. We're gonna need that. That's also crucial. We're gonna talk about Piojo, we'll talk about Quiñones, but also Piojo, he's been having a great showing defensively, but offensively, he's also had a couple of bangers. Okay, as far as crosses, as far as runs, and again, the America tax on the Azteca, I think it's going to be a factor. It's been a factor in the 2 games. The home field players do get that advantage. It's just a fact. I wouldn't have said it if it wasn't low-key true. I think Fidalgo and Quiñones will link up very well. You can add Raúl and Edson in that as well. But yeah, I guarantee you're going to see a goal from there. As far as how many goals, we'll get into that after we talk about the man himself. And I'm not sure if I use the right picture, but yeah, Quiñones, he's our star player on offense. In the Korea game, I sort of described it as a chess match. Well, Quiñones would be that guy that does all of the offense. So he's like our queen. No Diddy shit though. He was the only player that was opening up the defense. And add in Mora and Fidalgo, and you open up the defense even more. And then I just wanted to add on here at the end, we haven't really seen a lot of Chino, so I would like to see him come on for Quiñones. He did okay against Korea, although we didn't see much of him. He's a lot faster than Vega, that's for damn sure. He's really the only player that can sort of replicate what Quiñones is doing on that left wing, although not really. Now let's segue very swiftly into my prediction for this game, and I'm not gonna go high scoring. I made the mistake of saying 3-1 against Korea, and if it turns out that this is the game where we win 3-0 or it's a high scoring game, I'm just going to find that funny. I'm just going to find that hilarious. And listen, I'm going 1-0 because I do think that we'll rotate and that's going to make us slightly worse, although I could be completely wrong. I hope that I'm wrong because I do think that Mora is going to have an amazing game. But I won't make the mistake of thinking that we're just going to become a high-scoring team out of nowhere. So I'm going with a very reserved 1-0. I could even see 2-0. I could see any one of these three players scoring. I don't know what Fidalgo's hand is doing there, but I can definitely see this man scoring and celebrating in front of everyone at the Azteca, just like he used to do for my glorious Ame. Hi everyone, Utopic Future Tano here, the internet's busiest Mexico nerd, and listen, I'm back with a review of Mexico's latest fixture, 3-0 against Czechia, and let's get right into it because this result was very contundente. I made a very specific prediction for this game and it turned out to be exactly correct. We'll get into that, but I told y'all this game mattered more than people think. And the reason for that was the rotations. The rotations ended up being the difference makers in this game. I'm talking Gil Mora. I'm talking Mateo Chavez. I'm talking Gil Mora again. And listen, you've heard from other content creators reacting to this result. I agree with all of that. This was our easiest game yet. We looked confident. We looked very good on the ball. I enjoyed it very much. I want to address the game chronologically because I made the mistake of going on social media after the first half and looking at what people were saying. Big mistake, okay? And I know it's not just Mexico fans, but I'm a Mexico fan, so this is what I see. I swear some of the most reactionary takes are found in the Mexican football space. And listen, after the first half, it was like a bomb went off. People were blaming this player, that player, Vasco. They were saying Vasco should get sacked after the first half. This is ridiculous, okay? And I just want to clear a few things up because it feels like there's a lot of fans that watch Mexico games with their eyes closed, okay? Some of this should be pretty self-explanatory. So just to be absolutely clear, Mexico is a defensive team. We play defensive. We're Sonic, okay? We're okay going forward, okay? We can definitely get better with Mora and you know, all the things we'll get into later. But we are a defense-first team, okay? We wait for the opponent to react first. We have to wait out to see what their attack looks like in the first half, at least. I feel like some people aren't getting this yet. And I don't know if they'll ever get it because we've been watching Mexico for the longest time, ever since Vasco got appointed. This is the structure that we've gotten. This is the identity that we have. We used to not have an identity at all. Everyone that watches Utopic Draco Future, okay, we understand that this is how Mexico has been structured from the very beginning. But any new viewers here, like, I just want to clear that up. That's how we play. And yes, I know it was boring, okay? I'm not going to make excuses here, even though I just did. But this is kind of always how the first half is going to look in all of our games, I feel like. You know what I mean? So we play defense, we sit back, we hit and run, we wait for a counter or chance to attack, and then ride out the rest of the game. And I think we were a little bit shaky in the first half as well. But I think to a certain extent it comes down to nerves. However, I do want to talk a little bit about the defense. I want to talk a little bit about the organization because I think Cesar Montes had a great game, but his defensive organization was a little bit off. We need Johan Vazquez in that space, okay? If you guys remember, there was a chance where one of the Czechia strikers got a shot off that just went past the woodwork. And the reason that chance even happened was because he was left wide open in the middle of the defense. And usually that's a situation where Johan Vazquez steps in or keeps the defensive organization intact so it never develops. There was a lot of moments like that in the first half, and I was a little bit worried. Okay, I will keep it a buck. But again, I think more so than anything, Mexico just wanted to get a feel for how the Czechs were going to attack. So that was a big part of the reason why they had more chances in the first half. And Czechia had an awful game overall, but we'll talk about that going forward, okay? The first half looked pretty bad. Going back to our attack in the first half, Mora kind of had a quiet half. I think the reason for that were because the Czechs were man-marking our midfielders. Although Mora did try to find space on multiple occasions, that's what he does, that's what he's good at. He was being man-marked pretty well. He couldn't really find those open spaces to receive the ball and play a really good pass. Kind of like how I said in my prediction video, those tight middle spaces were going to create a lot of chances. That didn't really happen in the first half, but in the second half, that's exactly what happened. In the second half, Mora turned up, and I don't know what was said. I don't know what, was communicated, but I don't think anything was really said to Mora. They just said, go do your thing. And he certainly did, okay? He turned up, he started creating more opportunities. We had the chance from Luis Romo, and then we had the chance from Mateo Chavez. And can I just talk about Mateo Chavez for a little bit? I feel like I haven't spoken enough about him on my channel, and I think it's time to change that. First of all, insane composure in front of goal. Santi had that exact same chance later in the game. We'll talk about Santi, but he squandered it, okay? Even though Fidalgo still scored, like, that's totally fine. But Mateo Chavez, though, what a goal. What a way to stamp your mark on this game. He was also everywhere offensively, you know? Not in a bad way. I mean, like, he was literally everywhere. As far as is he going to start from now on? I mean, he definitely should. He definitely should. Here's the only possible concern I see with that, though. And listen, I love Mateo Chavez. This is not going to be Mateo Chavez's fault at all. It's just kind of the style of play. I know that fucking Asco ball isn't really the best for this. When he goes forward, if you notice where he was on a lot of these plays, on the one where Mora played the ball to Luis Romo that he squandered, if you look at where Mateo Chavez is, he's basically where like Julián Quiñones or Raúl Jiménez would be, or one of the midfielders. He was very high up the pitch, way out of position. Even on his goal, he scored from the complete opposite side of where he normally plays. And I really like that. Like, this is not a criticism. I love that we have that attacking left back, because Gallardo is not doing that bullshit, okay? That's just his play style. And it's a very, very good one, okay? He put in a great defensive shift. Whenever he had to defend, he was in people's faces. He knew exactly what he needed to do. He looked like he'd been playing the World Cup his entire life. And again, the only thing is that style of play, inevitably, no matter how good your defense is, it does just leave gaps in your position. So that means someone like Julián Quiñones has to track back, or someone like Memote, who is tracking back a lot. We'll talk about him later. But that's kind of why you saw Quiñones looking so tired towards the end of the game, okay? He was tracking back a lot more than he normally has to when Gallardo is on that side, because, of course, Gallardo can't go forward at all and sticks to defense. Yes, I do think Mateo Chavez should start. Absolutely. From now on, he should be the undisputed starter. But don't be surprised if fucking Vasco picks Gallardo, you know? Like, just don't be surprised. That's all I wanted to say about that. Second goal, amazing. Mora completely created that chance. And this is what I've been saying from the very beginning of this channel. Mora is the difference maker on this team. Mora and Fidalgo, we'll talk about Fidalgo, but Mora basically created the entire chance. Jorge Sanchez made the run. Mora basically made Jorge Sanchez make that run. He had a decent game offensively and defensively. I'm talking about Jorge Sanchez. But yeah, he tried to finish it, bounced back out. Julián Quiñones finished it. And just like I predicted, I said I could see a goal from Julián Quiñones, and he did exactly that. So shout out to this guy right here, the AME player. And from there, we'll talk about Álvaro Fidalgo, man. What a player. What a player. I absolutely loved watching that goal. That was probably my favorite goal of the Czechia game. Seeing him score in front of the Azteca crowd, seeing him tear up, it brought me flashbacks of AME. Please come back. They don't love you at Betis, okay? And I did predict that as well, okay? To be fair, I did predict 1-0. And I said that if it was 3-0, I would just find that hilarious. Because on my last South Korea prediction, I guessed 3-1. And I was completely wrong. So I went a lot more reserved here. But I did say, yeah, don't be surprised if, you know, Fidalgo or Quiñones shows up in this game. And that's exactly what happened. So it is funny. It is funny because the football gods just like to toy with me sometimes. Regardless, I'm happy to be proven wrong in that scenario. Shout out to Fidalgo. Shout out to Julián Quiñones. I told y'all it was the America players and Mateo Chavez, so shout out to Chivas as well. I can't wait to argue with y'all when the Liga MX season starts back up. Just to briefly go over some of the other players, I think Reyes had a great game. I'm fucking dead, man. Look, he's mogging everyone here. All of our defenders played pretty well. Cesar Montes specifically redeemed himself against South Africa. He was winning every ball aerially. Like I said, when it came to defense, Czechia only really had one threat. I should have said this in my preview video, but yeah, they only had the aerial balls and set pieces, and it wasn't even the height. I said this in my preview. The height was never going to be a factor. This isn't Tinder, okay? Czechia has very tall players, but the reason they scored that set piece goal against Korea is because they completely left a man open. We are so defensively sound, even without Johan Vázquez, that we shut them down completely, and they couldn't get anything going in the second half. Do I think they're dog shit? No, I mean, they're disappointing for sure. They had a completely disappointing World Cup, but Czechia, their qualifying was not easy. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say. And we shut them down completely. And listen, the defense, that goes for Reyes, Montes, Edson Álvarez as well. He had another amazing game. He's 3 for 3 in World Cup performances so far, at least in, this World Cup. Yes, he got his state-mandated yellow card, but other than that, he was incredible. He was looking like Lira out there. And Lira is supposed to be the ball-playing, holding midfielder, not Edson, but Edson looked amazing. Also reminded me of his Ajax days. Quiñones had a great game as well. Obviously, he got the goal. He got very tired towards the end, but we didn't have another sub because of Memo Ochoa. We'll talk about Memo later. But yeah, Piojo as well. This is another guy who's 3 for 3 in World Cup performances, okay? Please send him his flowers. Y'all, I swear, some of y'all have an apology form to fill out of Piojo, okay? Some of you need to fill out the Piojo Alvarado apology form and stop with the reactionary takes about Piojo, okay? There was so many, and again, like the first half, going back to the reactionary takes, he had that chance that he completely skied, and that's embarrassing, okay? I will fully admit, and I'm a fan. I don't get anything from liking this guy. I actually hate this dude. But because of the skied chance, right? It was the first real chance that we had all game in the first half. So I understand why people were so upset. But these are just Piojoisms, man. I'm sorry. This is just going to happen. You just have to accept it. The same thing goes for Jorge Sanchez. You have to accept that he's going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these moments every game, okay? We just let him defend wingers and put crosses into the box. Don't let him shoot. Both Piojo and Jorge Sanchez have their Piojoisms and Jorge Sanchez-isms, but they're good defensively and they both put in a shift today. You can't really take that away from them. Let's talk about Memote Martinez here because I've seen a lot of reactionary takes about him too. And to be honest, I hope no one thinks that I'm some huge Memote fan because I'm about to defend him. But when I made my squad video, the dude was not even on my radar. Like, I did not want him in the squad whatsoever. But when the squad dropped, I understood why Vasco brought him. And it's almost like I saw the Hercules Gomez reaction to this, and he said the exact same thing. Like, Vasco was probably looking at this exact game for why he picked Memote Martinez. And you know what? It was a good decision. Honestly, like, his hold-up play was pretty good. Hot take maybe, but it was pretty good. He fought for balls. He was physical. That's exactly why he was brought. Say what you want about, his talent or, what Raúl Jiménez would do, but Raúl Jiménez would not have that same strength and physicality. I know he's strong as well, but Memote is just big and imposing. I know he had 1 or 2 chances that didn't go anywhere as well, but he was brought into the squad to bring physicality, okay? There was a couple of plays where he received the ball from midfield or from the back, and since he was a lone striker, there wasn't really anyone close enough to help him, okay? But he fought for the ball well. And he also put in a really good defensive shift, okay? And listen, I know he's a striker. He's not supposed to do that, but clearly Vasco told him to do it. He was dropping back to defend set pieces and aerial balls, and he did it very well, okay? I know that's not what you want from your striker, but he did Vasco's job. Now, Santi, I might have to make an entire video about this, about the players who I think their World Cup is over. I think Santi's World Cup is over, man. I mean, I don't think that he's a bad player. I really don't. I just think his confidence is shot. He should have finished that chance. Memo Ochoa had that really good goal kick where Santi held up the player and allowed Piojo to get on that ball, and that's what created the chance for Fidalgo's goal. So he wasn't horrible. Again, like I mentioned in my video where I talk about one positive thing about every Mexico player, Santi's talents don't really get shown in stats that much. I know this is cope. I'm not a Santi fan, I promise. But I know this is cope, okay? His talents don't really get shown in stats that much, but, he did not have a great game. I'm sorry. And I think his World Cup could be over. I think we're looking at Raúl, Memote maybe second, and then Hormiga third. Or, you can swap out Hormiga and Memote depending on how they do or the matchups that we have. But yeah, shout out to Santi though, I still like him. Now let's dedicate the rest of this video to Memo Ochoa, okay? And like I predicted, he didn't start. He came on in the last 10 minutes. And what a glorious moment it was. Some of y'all were saying he should start and come off at halftime. No, this was way better. What actually happened was perfect. Everyone was clapping, everyone was cheering. I've seen this guy starting in goal for almost my entire time watching the Mexican national team, okay? He obviously played for my club for the longest time, and I have a huge amount of respect for him. I've seen a lot of comments hating on Memo, but from the very beginning, I mean, if you've watched my Mora video, or I guess it's the Mexican fans video, I talked about the Mexican in reaction to Memo. And he gets a lot of hate, but he truly is a legend of the game. I think more people are kind of, accepting that, which is good. But sometimes when you're in the Mexican fan bubble, it's hard to understand just how much of a legend people around the world think he is. And Mexican fans, of course, for the most part, love him. Non-Mexican fans absolutely adore him. So this was an amazing send-off. He had that great pass to Santi Jimenez, which led to the Fidalgo goal, as I mentioned previously. But what a legend. What a career. This represents the changing of the guard for sure. With Memo's last World Cup and likely his last game, this truly feels like the changing of generations, with Mora coming in and completely taking over the game. Say what you want about Vasco's defensive play style or how it'll hold up in this World Cup. It seems like we're set to play Ecuador next, which we can have a whole video about that, so please hit like and subscribe for that video. But regardless of what happens in this World Cup, I think we're in a fantastic position for the future. I might make a video talking about what our 2030 squad might look like, but I'll probably wait until after the World Cup. These are very exciting times, okay? This is exactly what I wanted from this game and more. It was easily our best World Cup performance so far, the best of our 3 performances, and hopefully there's more where that came from, because this was an amazing game. 9 points, 3 wins, 0 goals conceded. You have no idea how important that is. I mean, we're set up so well defensively. Our midfield looks insane. With Mora, when things click, we can go very, very far. I'm telling you, okay? I'm feeling a light to decent 9 on this performance. What is going on, everyone? It is Utopic Draco Future, and no special intro for today because this is a bit of a serious one. And that's because Mexico just got our opponent in the round of 32, and it turns out to be Ecuador. And I've seen so many things from all around the Mexican football space about how Ecuador is our scariest opponent. They're going to be difficult. They're going to be tough. They're going to beat us. And I just wanted to step in here and just hit a hard disagree on that. And I'll get into it. I know you read the title. I'll get into that. But I first of all want to begin this video by asking some difficult questions. And we'll start with the first one. Why are some Mexican fans afraid of Ecuador? Is it because of the defensive structure? Is it because of the CONMEBOL tax? Mexico struggles against CONMEBOL historically. Is it because they have players in Arsenal, Chelsea, all over the world, even the giants of Pumas? That's a big question. I'm sure there are many other factors, and I'm afraid I'm not going to be answering that question in today's video. But I do just want to highlight, first of all, before anything else, since I've seen so much negativity and worry in the Mexican football space, I want this video to act as a sort of breath of fresh air when it comes to facing Ecuador. Because yes, I truly think, as I say in the title, this isn't a gimmick, this isn't anything like that. I do think that we'll make it easy against Ecuador. I think it's a huge possibility. And will it be a difficult ask? Yeah. But I think that we have the ability to fight through the difficulty and make it easy, if that makes sense. Let's move on to the next question. Will the Azteca be a factor in this game? Well, I've heard from a lot of people that the altitude won't be a factor because Ecuador is used to playing in Quito and Bolivia when they have to go play qualifying there. So I've heard that the altitude won't affect them. And I don't necessarily care about the answer, but I will say this. No matter what, being away from home, not being the home side like they were against Germany, is going to play a factor, okay? Regardless of the altitude. Now, you can make the argument, and I've seen the argument as far as, these players play in Europe. The only ones that are really used to the altitude are the ones that play in Liga MX, the players that play in the Ecuadorian League, all of that. And while I don't necessarily disagree with you, I don't really care about that. I think that the thing that will be a bigger factor will be the fact that it's going to be away from home. Now, the CONMEBOL tax, as we addressed earlier, could be a factor. However, I just don't think that Mexico is as affected by this against Ecuador as they are against a Colombia or an Argentina. I just don't, okay? And I know that these CONMEBOL teams, they fight, they're very gritty, they like to do what they do, they like to make it ugly, and that sometimes gives us some problems. But I don't think that this is as much of a factor as a Colombia or Argentina, okay? I think that Ecuador is a little bit different. I think we come from a similar background. That's probably why it won't be as much of a factor, because the Colombians and the Argentinians and the Brazilians of the world can use their hierarchy as a sort of leverage point against us, whereas the Ecuadorians don't have as much history as those teams. Maybe I'm just yapping, but I've seen us in recent results against Ecuador that makes me think that it won't be as much of a factor. Okay, that's the next question. Another question, was the Germany win a fluke? No, I don't think it was a fluke. No, I think that it was a great win. And shout out to Ecuador. I think they really pulled it out of the bag with this one. They gritted down and they got the result. This doesn't change the fact that Germany had nothing to play for. Now, I know they used their A-team, aside from maybe like 2 injuries, but they used their A-team. That doesn't change the fact that they had nothing to play for. That affects you subconsciously in a way that you don't necessarily see on the field until you see it on the field, if that makes sense. Regardless though, like I'm not hating on this result or anything. Like I do think that it was a great win for Ecuador. It was obviously the best win in their history, and they'll be coming off of that high playing against us. So that's something to consider. Is it a huge factor? Well, let's talk about the results against Curacao and Ivory Coast. I simply can't ignore those. I can't get those out of my head like I'm Kylie Minogue. Curacao gave them hell for 90 minutes, and they couldn't score. Ivory Coast gave them hell for 90 minutes, and they couldn't score until they got scored on the very end. What will be the Ecuador that shows up against Mexico? That's also a question to consider. Who will Ecuador be when they show up against us? Because you guys might think that Mexico has a lot that's riding against us in this game, but Ecuador has more. Mexican players are not under pressure right now. Well, they're definitely under pressure, but they're not as much under the pressure. They're not feeling it in the way that you guys are feeling it. I'm sorry. And you have Vasco to thank for this, and Márquez, and you know whoever else is behind the scenes. But these guys are not on social media. They are completely detached. They're in their own bubble. I think I mentioned it in a previous video. But the way that Aguirre has them set up, this Mexican squad is in a bubble, completely separated from the Mexican media that will put ideas into their head. We don't want no ideas to be put in their head. We don't want anything to be put in their head that makes them have doubt, that makes them have self-consciousness. That's not what's been happening. It maybe happened against South Africa. We'll talk about South Africa in a bit, by the way. Against South Africa, it was a very nervy game because there was nerves all around from both sides of the equation. But it definitely affected us more. Actually, probably not. I think it affected South Africa more. But it affected us a lot. Since then, we've only gotten better at handling the nerves. Against South Korea, already it was looking better. Against Czechia, forget about it. We looked amazing. And that's why I say that game was so important, because it told us who we were as a national team. I'm getting ahead of myself. No, the Germany win was not a fluke. Last thing here, Mexico, just reading off of our record here, Mexico is 3 for 3 in the group stages with 6 goals scored and 0 goals conceded. Again, that's very important. Ecuador has 2 goals scored and 2 goals conceded. Those 2 goals were both in the last game, and the 2 goals conceded were in the Germany and Ivory Coast games, respectively. I'm not a stats guy. I don't go on SofaScore. I don't go on FotMob. So whatever that means is up to interpretation, but I thought that was important to mention. Let's go over my starting 11 for a second, because this is who I think will start against Ecuador, because this is who I want to start against Ecuador. And listen, we'll talk about Mateo Chavez and the midfielders in a second, but this is who I want to start, right? So Tala in goal, of course. Mateo Chavez, he should be the starter. Johan Vázquez, Cesar Montes, Israel Reyes. Any disagreements with that? I think that's pretty, cut and dry there. Again, we'll talk about Mateo Chavez. In the midfield, we have Gil Mora, Eric Lira, and I had Álvaro Fidalgo. Now, I know that Vasco doesn't like to play Mora and Fidalgo together, but I would like to see it happen eventually. I think they'll work well off of each other. I know they're not much of, physical, gritty midfielders, so maybe I'm wrong about this, but I'm going to say this. Don't be surprised if you see Luis Romo in that spot instead of Fidalgo. Just don't be surprised. We'll get into it later, but don't be surprised, okay? I think Gil Mora has to start. He's an absolute lock. Julián Quiñones is going to be very important, as we'll get into later. Raúl Jiménez, I think, will start. Piojo Alvarado, I think, will start. I don't think there's that much disagreements with that. I think you can maybe swap out Edson and Lira if you really want to. Edson has had a great game, but basically my point with this is saying that a lot of our substitutions have come in and done really, really well. And obviously you can't start them all, but knowing that we have a player that's going to be as good, if not better, than the player that you have starting, that's a huge thing. And I don't think Ecuador can bring that same kind of energy. Now about Mateo Chavez. Listen, we will get into the friendly that we played a couple months ago against Ecuador where we tied 1-1. I want to talk about that one right after I talk really quickly about Luis Romo and Jesus Gallardo. Don't be surprised if they start, honestly. Don't be surprised if they start. Jesus Gallardo maybe less so, But Mateo Chavez, if you remember in that friendly against Ecuador, which I went back and rewatched, that friendly was Mateo Chavez's like breakout performance. I don't know if you guys remember that, but he had an amazing game. And he started against Ecuador. And I think that he could start again. Obviously, he had an amazing game against Czechia as well, scored the goal. He really should be starting. But I'm just saying, don't be surprised if they both start. Now, about that friendly. Again, it was 1-1. And I want to apologize because a couple of videos ago, it was actually a while ago, that I was talking about Luis Romo. And I was confused about why he made the squad. Big mistake, by the way, that aged like milk. And I mentioned that I thought he was dropped after he made a mistake against Colombia in one of our friendlies. And ever since then, he's never been called back again. I was actually wrong. Because I went back and looked at the Colombia game, I didn't see no mistake from Luis Romo. But what I did realize was that he did commit a mistake against Ecuador. It was this game. And Ecuador scored off of the penalty. But basically, Luis Romo played the ball back to Tala Rangel. It was too short. I think Ener Valencia got onto it, and then Tala committed a penalty, and they scored off of that. To make it 1-1, by the way. Berterame scored the first goal. Off of a mistake from Ecuador. I think, listen, Luis Romo has improved leaps and bounds since then. Even though he hasn't been called up, this World Cup has proven that he's actually built for this shit. So is Mateo Chavez. I think he's built for this shit. And one thing that I can't ignore in that friendly is the fact that Ecuador was making all kinds of mistakes at the back. All kinds of mistakes. And listen, I know that they've improved since then as well. But I do think that Vegasese is a fraud. I'm sorry, I still think that he's a fraud, regardless of the result. I think that people have sort of rose-colored glasses sometimes. Well, I guess in this case it would be shit-covered glasses, because if you're looking at it from a perspective of a Mexico fan, you're seeing the Ecuador result against Germany, and you're trembling in your boots. And I'm asking, why are you trembling in your boots? Vegasese, and this is going to age depending on how this result goes, but I'll say it right now. I'll take the gamble here. Vegasese is a fraud. That was the narrative after the Ecuador game. That was the narrative after they played the friendly against Mexico. That Vegasese is a fraud. And I'm like, when did you guys stop the narrative? Immediately after the full-time whistle for Germany? Immediately after that full-time whistle? I don't think so, man. I don't think so. People talk about the fact that Ecuador is built for these knockout moments. And I haven't seen it because this is the first time Ecuador has been really, really good. This is the first time they've been really, really good. Who said that they're built for these knockout moments? Now, this is going to age depending on, how we do in the actual game, right? Because it could come down to an extra time and penalties, and maybe we lose on penalties. I'll get to my prediction in a second. Spoiler alert, I'm not going to pick Ecuador. Okay, I'm not from Quito. I'm not from Guayaquil. Okay, I don't eat encebollado, but spoiler alert, I'm going to pick Mexico. We'll get to my prediction for the score in a second. But I just want to see people pump the brakes a little bit because we're getting a little bit too, I don't want to say scared, but a little bit too worried. Why are we so worried? And I think the main point in all this first part of the video is saying this. If we truly believe in the saying ECC, why are we worried about Ecuador? Real question. This is a question for the Mexican fans out there. I know that there's some Ecuadorians watching this. Shout out to Ecuador. But this is a question to the Mexicans. And I've never seen this sort of cognitive dissonance before. Because you can't believe these two things at the same time. If you truly believe in the phrase ECC, what does that phrase mean? It means we could possibly win the World Cup, right? What else could it mean? If we truly believe in that phrase, why are we scared of Ecuador? Why are we worried about that game? We should be beating Ecuador. We should make it look comfortable. We should be fighting our demons, right? Because CONMEBOL, right, is this big demon for Mexico. We should be fighting our demons and beating them if we're truly built for this shit. Are we truly built for this shit? We're going to find out. We're going to find out. We're going to find out with this game more so than any other game. More so than Scotland. More so than Cabo Verde. Although that would have been a difficult game as well. Don't get it twisted. A lot of you were hoping and praying for Cabo Verde. That would have been a difficult game as well. I hate to break it to y'all. But if we truly believe in that phrase, ECC, you can't be afraid of Ecuador. I'm sorry to say. I've gone on too long about this point. Let's talk about how to defend Ecuador. Okay. Number one, I've mentioned it. We have to grit down and fight. This will be a very scrappy game. Very, very scrappy. They're going to be bullying around our midfielders. They're going to be trying to push and shove. That's what they do. Number two, don't get arsenaled on set pieces. Dude, their set pieces are good. So are ours, but their set pieces are good as well. I think we're very, very capable of this. You know, we got Johan Vazquez leading the line at the back. We got some very good players in the air. We got Cesar Montes, Edson Álvarez if he starts or comes in later. These players are built for this shit. So don't get Arsenaled on set pieces. Or should I say don't get Mexico'd on set pieces. A lot of people are saying that Ecuador is just us but better. I don't think so. I think we're Ecuador but better, you know? I think we do what Ecuador does but better. Hot take, I guess. But I think our attack is better than Ecuador's. Is that a hot take? I mean, it shouldn't be. I never thought I would say that again. I didn't think I would say that about any team that we have a better attack than them. I think we have a better attack than Ecuador. I mean, it shows in the stats. Again, I don't care about the stats necessarily, but we scored 6 goals. I'm getting ahead of myself, okay? Don't get too out of position on defense. This is what I'm worried about with Mateo Chavez. Again, I don't think he's a bad player. I think he's better than Gallardo by far. But sometimes he gets out of position for the better, right? Because he's more attacking. He's better at attacking than Gallardo. But I'm just worried about getting too out of position on defense. Johan Vazquez will hold it down, though. I think that his structure, the way he has set up at the back is very good. So I'm not too worried about this, okay? I'm not too worried about this because, again, Ecuador, they really can't attack that well. Shout out to my Ecuadorians, but they can't attack that well. Now let's talk about how to attack them. I think the biggest thing here is Mora's creativity. We'll have to use that. No doubt that they've been watching the Czechia game. They saw how good Mora was on that side, and they're taking notes. And they're going to try to defend him. They're going to try to man-mark him like Czechia did. The problem I have with that, from the Ecuadorian perspective, is that you have quite a lot of players to worry about. Quiñones will need to make their life hell on the left-hand side. Kind of like Diomande. I know he's not as good as Diomande, but if you saw that Ivory Coast game against Ecuador, you know exactly what I'm talking about. He was making their life hell to the point they had to double team him, maybe even triple team him at some points. And that was how they dealt with Yan Diomande. And then they conceded. Mateo Chavez, again, he's going to be a very important player. He could link up with Quiñones well. And something that I also want to mention here is regarding the starters. I know I briefly touched on this. Yes, their starters play for better teams, without a doubt. They have, without a doubt, more talented players. We have better depth, by the way. We have better depth. Think about who we could possibly be leaving on the bench. These are players that may start, may not. We'll at least leave some of these players on the bench. Luis Romo, 2 goals and assists in the last 2 games. Fidalgo scored last game. Edson, he's had a 3-for-3 performance at this World Cup so far. Amazing holding mid. And center back, if you want to put him at center back. Mateo Chavez, again, I want to start him, but we could be leaving him on the bench. He scored last game. Brian Gutierrez, he's still doing his thing. And this is full credit to Vasco, by the way. This is more praise being thrown onto Vasco. Our rotations and more so our subs, I know those things aren't exactly the same thing, but more so our subs, they've made the biggest difference in these games, in this World Cup. We actually look better than we do in the first half. We look better in the second half. And this wasn't the case ever before. This is something that I don't see anyone talking about. This was not the case during the friendlies. We look way better in the second half because of the subs. And it's all thanks to this man. He has amazing rotations. Say what you want about his starting 11, but I think I see the vision here. I think I see the vision, like a line between 2 dots. Our starting 11 is such that we wait for the opponent. We want to see how the opponent is going to look. That's why our first half looks so bad sometimes to a neutral. Because we're waiting, we're responding, we're doing this, we're doing that. And then we come on in the second half with the subs, with the rotations, with the different style of play. That's what we do. That's the vision. That's the vision. I see nobody talking about this, by the way. Go ahead and hit subscribe. Utopic Draco Future, that's me. And like the video. And follow me on Instagram, Utopic Draco Future, all that. Now, is there a million more things to talk about in regards to this game? Yes, probably. But I want to talk about my prediction. And I know a lot of y'all have been waiting for this because I feel like some of my predictions have been pretty accurate so far. South Africa was dead accurate. We won't talk about Korea. But Czechia, in a kind of runaround way, was pretty accurate. So here's my Nosferatu-like predictions. 2-0. I'm going 2-0. Okay. And the reason why I say 2-0 is because I think that we're going to South Africa them. We're going to SA them. Let me not abbreviate South Africa. We're going to South Africa them. And I just see this in my mind's eye, right? If you remember the Ecuador friendlies, just to go back to that, the reason why we scored was off of a mistake from Pacho. And I see the same thing happening here. I see either an Ecuador-friendly-like mistake at the back or a South Africa-like mistake at the back. But I think this team has mistakes in them. I think looking at the group stage performance so far, the Ecuador that will show up will be the Ecuador that played Ivory Coast, that played Curacao. Hopefully not Curacao because they had a lot of shots on goal, but we're not Curacao. Also, just to, go on a tangent there, we're not Curacao. I see a red card. I see maybe like a one-on-one situation, kind of like the Brian Gutierrez red card. I could see that. Or I could see accumulation of 2 yellow cards, maybe from bullying Mora all game, possibly. And I see Quiñones getting an assist. I see a Quiñones assist to maybe Raúl Jiménez. I see a Piojo assist, or maybe even a Piojo goal, honestly. I don't know why. I don't know what it is. Maybe you guys think I'm a Piojo glazer, but I see a Piojo goal, to be honest. That's just what I see. That's just me. But there you go. That's my prediction, 2-0. And then I think the goals will probably maybe one in the first half and one in the second. I know that's, not the craziest prediction, but I do think that we're going to keep a clean sheet. I could see, maybe a Raúl Jiménez goal in the first half or maybe both of them in the second half, however you want to put it. But I just see these 2 goal scorers. I just see these 2. Now, just to put a bow on this video, I just want to say here, for the record, that I'm glad that we're going to play Ecuador and not Scotland, because this is the real test. This will be the real test. And I know that I said that we'll make it easy, whatever. I just think we'll make it look easy. I don't think it will be easy. But games like this are the ones that are really going to determine how we do this tournament, what we're built like, what we're made of. And I think the CONMEBOL test has come early. And I think we'll pass that test with flying colors, okay? This video has gone on long enough. Let's go ahead and end it here. What is going on? It's Utopic Draco Future again, and this is just a little bonus for making it this far into the video. I will be performing a rendition of Numbers on the Boards by Pusha T. I'm so bossy, bitch get off me. It's a different jingle when you hear these car keys. Your SL's missing an S. Your plane's missing a chef. The common theme is they both got wings. If you fly, do it to death. It's only one God and it's only one crown, so it's only one king that can stand on this mound. King push, kingpin, overlord, Coast Guard come 100 going overboard. I got money with the best of them. Go blow for blow with any Mexican. Don't let your side bitches settle in. Might have to headbutt your Evelyn. Bowlers, I put numbers on the boards. All right, back to the video. Bro, what is going on, everyone? It is Utopic Draco Future, and you can call me Utopic, you can call me Draco, and you know what? You can call me Future as well, because what a time to be alive. And I'll make this quick because I have some Mexico versus England predictions to make, and spoiler alert, I'm going to be predicting Mexico 7-0, Mora hat-trick, Kane bows down to Piojo like that one Neymar fan, and we all go home happy. But let's talk about this game for a little bit, because first of all, I want to start out with a message for Ecuador. Man, y'all did y'all thing, okay? I know we made it easy, but it was going to be a difficult game always. I'm not putting this on the players because this is genuinely a golden generation of Ecuadorian talent, and Becasese is a complete fraud. Just like I said in my video, he has no idea how to manage this crop of European talent. The golden age of Ecuador deserves better. Did they do horrible against Mexico? No, but there wasn't really any plan B. And when y'all got scored on twice, it was like, it was kind of over. There was no plan B. A lot of the talk before this game was about the Mexican players to see if they would have felt the pressure. And if you know ball, you know exactly why I'm using this instrumental as the backing track, okay?
Wait a little bit, don't speak too soon. We have the first title, and almost for sure, we will have the second one, and the second one will be the big one.
You sound as though you're feeling the pressure.
I'm not feeling the pressure, no. You cannot put pressure on me. No chance. No chance. I read a lot of times during this week that I have to prove a lot in English football. Sir Alex is the only one European champion in this country. Nobody else. So I have to prove what?
They did not feel the pressure at all. Like J. Cole said, they feel the pressure. Me, I feel like I just left them a Seuss, okay? Right from the opening whistle, we were on them the entire first half. We could have had a goal from Romo. We could have had a goal from Raúl. We could have a goal from Mora. We could have had at least 5 goals in the first half. And it's almost all entirely thanks to Gilberto Mora. There are not enough superlatives to describe this performance yesterday. I mean, you guys have heard over and over from me and other Mexican content creators about this dude's ability, but today was his actual big test. It was always up in the air how he would look against these world-class talent teams. He showed that he is ready for the Barcelonas and the Real Madrids of the world. He's going straight to those teams. Look out for that transfer immediately after the World Cup, okay? He was creating chances. He was opening up space. He was dribbling like an absolute genius, like a savant. The maturity that he has at 17 years old is actually insane. Then there was the Quiñones goal. Then there was the Raúl goal. Like, these players are just locked in, completely locked in. That's the best way that I can describe it, okay? And I feel like a lot of these players demand respect now because I've seen so much disrespect on the Piojos and the Romos and the Jorge Sanchez's of the world. I mean, I didn't know if they needed to cure cancer or what they needed to do to get respect. But luckily, I feel like after this game, they're definitely getting it. And I will never complain about the starting 11 ever again. Vasco is cooking every time he has this starting group of players. And this goes for the Jorge Sanchez haters, for the Romo haters, for the Gallardo haters. They all did their thing today. On the defensive side of things, you had Johan and Montes winning every single aerial duel, just like I said we would have to. On defense and offense, okay? We did not get arsenaled on set pieces because we won everything in the air, and I said that was going to be very important heading into this game from a defensive standpoint. Another thing that I predicted, honestly, okay, I think it would be quicker to go ahead and say what I didn't predict. So, Quiñones' goal, first of all, I did not predict that. I predicted that Mora's creativity would be huge on the attacking side of things. I predicted that Raúl Jiménez would score a goal. I predicted that a goal would come from a mistake at the back, and I had people in my comments saying that they are the best defense in the world. They will not commit a mistake at the back, but that's exactly what you saw in that game. I also predicted a red card when Hincapie went and covered his mouth and talked to Santi, and Santi went and ratted him out like 6'9". Like, that was hilarious towards the end of the game. Piojo assist, I also predicted that as well. I mean, come on now. Piojo is again one of these players that is locked in every time he steps on the field for Mexico. He's gotten so much slander over the past year, and now he's tied for third in assists. I mean, just put some respect on Piojo, please. And luckily, he's getting it. So shout out to Piojo. He's been doing his thing this entire tournament. He didn't get a goal, but he got an assist. It's what he does best. Please don't ever shoot the ball ever again, though, please. I mean, we really did exactly what we did to South Africa to these guys. Like, almost exactly. And I'm not going to abbreviate it this time, but we South Africa'd them. Just like I said in my video, we made it look easy, and now we're heading into the round of 16 against England, looking very, very dangerous on the defensive side of things, in the midfield, in the attack. We are so locked in, every single one of us, all of our players. When Jorge Sanchez got beat, Piojo Alvarado would go in and save his ass. When Gallardo got beat, Quiñones would go in and save his ass. Johan and Montes were working off of each other so well, it was actually insane to watch. Tala Rangel didn't really have much to do, but he had a great game as well. This is a very, very, very scary squad. That's all I'm going to say. I mean, say what you want about the whole, waiting outside the hotel, things like that. That stuff all happens all the time in Copa Libertadores, so I'm not even worried about that. People were complaining. I'm not worried about it. It's part of the game, okay? It's part of Latin American football. Like, we should know this by now. The altitude was probably a factor as well. Ecuador looked spent towards the end of the game. They had nothing, okay? They had absolutely nothing. I don't know what type of rain dance, Aztec human sacrifice was made for it to start raining and the game got postponed, but it seemed to work. Okay, I just want to add this little part in here just as a little editor's note. I've kind of been saying this for the longest time. I mean, if you've seen my video talking about Javier Aguirre and how he's been cooking something different with this team, you'll know that I've been saying this for the longest time. Like, we're all locked in, we all play for each other, and more than anything, all of the players contribute to something that is greater than the sum of its parts. No, we don't have the world-class players. No, we don't have the players in Europe. We don't have the fastest players. We don't have the most talented players. But what we do have is a group of players that work for each other and help each other and stick by each other no matter what. And that also goes with the fans as well. The fans have been like the 12th man of the game, and the stadium has been like the 13th. I have no doubt in my mind that we will show up to this England game the most locked in we've ever been. And I'm so excited for that game. Again, all my takes have been aging tasting like the finest of Italian wines. I also made a video about Mexican fans and how some of the toxicity can seep into how we think about these players. I talked about Gilberto Mora in that video as well, and also about a possible great World Cup run. So that video aged like wine as well, and it's just incredible. It's just incredible what Vasco has done with this group of players, with the fans. He's made the fans believe. And, you know, it's not quite time yet to really look back and see how far these group of players have come. That time hopefully won't come soon, but I will tell you right now, this is a very, very important and special group of players. What is going on, everyone? It is Utopic Draco Future, and I found the method, okay? What method, you may ask? Oh, you know, just how to beat England in the World Cup. Yeah, I found that method. And I'm going to go ahead and share it with the world. And I just want to say right off the bat here, if you're English, you better watch this video as well, because I'm going to tell you exactly how to beat Mexico also. And if you're wondering why my Ecuador prediction got 30,000 views while I only have 2,000 followers, well, it's because I predicted exactly what would happen through each moment of the game. So y'all better lock in for this one. And for all my Mexican fans out there, I'm sorry to say, but for the next couple days, we're going to have to stop consuming any sort of British media. So I'm talking music, movies, TV shows, anything British that you consume, don't do it anymore for the next few days at least. And this is going to be particularly difficult for me because I'm a huge Gorillaz fan. I know a lot of you Mexicans are Smiths fans as well. I don't know why Mexicans love the Smiths so much. But hey, I love them too. Okay, I love them too. That also means no more panel shows, okay? No Would I Lie to You, no British sitcoms, no Peep Show, no Not Going Out, none of your British roadman fucking rap. I don't want to hear no shanking ad-libs. I don't want to hear no knife sound effects. I don't want to hear Stormzy, Central C, none of those people. Because we have a job to do at the Azteca as fans, as a team, as a country. And yes, that also means no British food, okay? I'm sorry. We can't eat British food anymore. That means no jellied eels, okay? No black pudding. No fucking fish pies. No peas and fucking rice, bro. You can't eat any of that. I know this is horrible to hear as a Mexican, but you can't eat British food anymore. I'm sorry. But in all seriousness, I think our two fan bases are a lot more similar than we are different. I mean, if you think about it, Mexico and England have almost the same exact sort of media scrutiny, media circus, rabid, delusional fans. A lot of countries in our same region despise us. It's like we're basically the same fan base. You know, if I can just extend that olive branch to you English fans out there. Now let's get into the actual breakdown because this is what you came here for. And first of all, before anything, I just want to address the elephant in the room, okay? Yes, of course, it's the altitude. I know, you've heard it a million times. And it's a real thing. There's a reason why you've heard it a million times. It's a real thing. Let's talk about the altitude. Okay, altitude affects your endurance, your recovery. It doesn't just make you more tired. You genuinely feel like you can't catch a breath. I've played youth football my entire life in the altitude, not nearly as high as the Azteca, by the way, not nearly as high as Ciudad de Mexico, but it genuinely feels like you can't catch a breath. And the Ecuadorians kind of went through that. You need a lot more time to acclimate than these guys are getting. I think the English team is heading over about 2 days before the match, which is not nearly enough time to be acclimated. You need at least a week. Okay, and why does this matter? England will be forced to play our game as the match goes on. And this is very important, as we'll get into later when we talk about how to defend them and how to attack as well. Their biggest strength is in the second half, where they really have to turn it up. And if you're at altitude and you can't turn it up because you can't catch a breath and your entire squad feels that way, it's gonna be bad. It's gonna be bad, my homie. And also, just as a little thing here, the altitude will be in their minds, even if there's an actual like in-game effect. Regardless of that detail, that little fact will be in all of the English players' minds before the game, leading up to the game. Tuchel's already bringing it up. If you saw the interview, he's already bringing it up. I'm not saying like in terms of excuses, because I'm not really counting that as an excuse, but it's important to bring up. And Tuchel, that was like the first thing he brought up. Okay, no matter what, this is going to be on their minds. It's what every single pundit is talking to you about. But here's what the pundits are not talking to you about. And we'll jump right into how to defend England. And this is very important, okay? Because England has 2 players that you got to really watch out for. They got a lot more for sure, but Harry Kane and Jude Bellingham have really turned up this tournament, regardless of how England has looked. Regardless of that. because a lot of you will say that they look disappointing and they haven't played up to their strengths, and I would agree with you. However, these two players are very important for the English national team. We'll get into them a little bit later. Set pieces are also going to be very important. I talked about this in the Ecuador game, and we played a perfect game when it came to set pieces against Ecuador, okay? Do not get arsenaled. I know they got Declan Rice, but don't get arsenaled on set pieces. English players are tall. English players are good at set pieces, attacking and defending, but we have Johan Vázquez and Cesar Montes, okay? And as long as they keep doing their thing, as long as our defense stays organized, this isn't as much of a concern, and I don't think it will really be brought up too much here. Now, Luis Romo and Eric Lira, we'll get into my starting 11 in a little bit, but Luis Romo / Eric Lira, either one of them will have to help Gallardo defend that wing. As we saw against Ecuador, and how I mentioned in my breakdown, Jorge Sanchez, our right back, did get beat on multiple occasions against Ecuador. However, when he did get beat, Piojo Alvarado, who is our right wing, by the way, would drop back and help out on defense. They would be double teaming players, pause, they would play for each other. So if one person got beat, the other person would go in and defend. Now, Gallardo doesn't really have that on his side. Quiñones, I love you, man, but he's not as good of a defender. And I wouldn't want him to be, because he's going to be our main man up front. Gallardo is, of course, our left back. And as we saw against Ecuador, Luis Romo would always drop back to defend that wing with Gallardo. It was him or Eric Lira, but mostly Luis Romo. As long as we have two players defending the wings, that's all I need. Saka, Madueke, those players have not looked dangerous for England this tournament. Not yet, at least. But we know that they are dangerous. So let's lock in, okay? Let's lock in. The most important thing here I saved for last, second half England. I'm almost certain that England has scored all of their goals. If I'm not mistaken, someone correct me in the comments, but they've scored all of their goals, at least the majority of their goals, in the second half. I know that for a fact. Now, this could be an issue / a good thing for Mexico because we have the exact formula to stop this, because we let games ride out towards the end. We can defend with our lives towards the second half, towards the very last moments of the game. As long as, again, we stay composed on defense, we keep our defensive structure, we can defend against this dangerous second half England, regardless of the altitude. And you can throw in altitude as well. They may be affected by the altitude towards the second half of the game, but regardless, they are still going to be dangerous, just how Ecuador was dangerous. At points, not all the time, but definitely at points, there will be chances no matter what, right? This is a football game, 90 minutes. There will be chances from both ends of the field. And I do think that we have the defense and, more importantly, the subs, the defensive subs, to really help us on defense. This is where you see an Edson Álvarez come in. He has experience in England. He's a very physical and tall player. I wouldn't be surprised if I saw Edson Álvarez come in like the 50th or 60th minute, depending on how we're doing at that point in the game, which again, we'll get to later in my predictions. By the way, my predictions have been scarily accurate, okay? Hit like on this video, hit subscribe, hype up the video. My last almost 3 or 4 videos in a row have been hyped up on YouTube, which is just insane. I think that just goes to show the level of content that we are operating at the moment. We're completely locked in, like Mexico. And speaking of locked in, okay, let's talk about how to attack England. It's time to bring up this kid, Mora. Mexico will have to utilize Mora's creativity, okay? Just like he did against Ecuador. This is going to be very important. He can give those line-breaking passes where the England defense doesn't know what's coming. Gilberto Mora is going to be our biggest tool going forward. And honestly, we have a lot of tools going forward, but he will be our biggest. Another thing here, open space. Quiñones needs to attack the open space. If we learned anything about the Ecuador game, we learned a lot about the Ecuador game, but let's go back to that very first goal that Quiñones scored. And it still just blows me away about how that line-breaking pass was hit by Piojo Alvarado. Again, if you're not on the Piojo Alvarado train by now, you need to get off the tracks because the motherfucking train's coming. But what I found so interesting is that Ecuador lost concentration on defense for a split second. Their defensive line was broken for a split second. And Piojo found the pass, and Quiñones found the run, and he finished it like an elite striker at the very top level. This is what England should fear. This is what they should fear, especially because they're very disorganized at the back. England fans will tell you this, by the way. They play as individuals. They don't play as a collective like Mexico does. We can laugh about the names We can laugh about the teams that they play for, but as you saw against Ecuador, and how you've seen just throughout this World Cup in general, no one cares about the clubs that you play for. It's not about the status. It's not about the glitz and glamour and, how far you went in the Champions League last season. It's about how well you play as a unit. And we play as a unit defensively, in the midfield, in the offense. We play as a unit collectively. This is why we're going far in the tournament. This is why we haven't conceded a single goal yet. Because we play as a unit despite where we come from. Despite where any player plays. Piojo Alvarado is dog shit at Chivas, bro. Sorry, that's my America fan coming out. But I love Piojo now. These players are not world class. But if you put them together in the right system, under the right manager, under the right conditions, you get something very special. And this is what England should fear. For the first time ever, all of Mexico's attackers are a danger. All of them. I don't care who they are. England's back line has to watch out for these players. Quiñones is scoring goals for fun. Raúl Jiménez is scoring goals for fun. He's been on one this tournament. I also saw a stat that he has like an insane goal record against Pickford. I don't really care about that necessarily. I don't really factor that into my predictions at all. I'm not a historical Harry. If you guys noticed, in all my predictions, I haven't mentioned Mexico's historical record or their history of this or that in almost any of them. And that's because I don't think it really matters that much. I mean, it can definitely matter sometimes, for sure. But something that I did get a lot of comments on, especially in my Ecuador prediction, was the fact that a lot of the predictions were based off of emotion. Now, for the most part, I disagree with that because I think I did have a decent tactical breakdown of that game. However, did you guys forget what sport we're talking about here? This is football. This is an emotional game. More than any other sport in the world. We're not watching baseball here. We're not watching NBA. This isn't a stats game. That's why I don't mention stats that much in my breakdowns either. Football, more than anything, especially the World Cup, is not a stats sport. This is a game you have to watch with your eyes. That's why players are jumping on the Romo train and the Piojo train already, because they see how good these players have been doing. Let me get off my soapbox. I was talking about the three attackers. Yeah, they gotta be scared of all of them, okay? They gotta be scared of all of them. Quiñones, Raúl Jiménez, Piojo Alvarado. You gotta watch out for every single attacker. And Mora, of course, he's gonna be our main talisman going forward. Whereas Mexico, yes, we do have to worry about all of their attackers. But we have to worry most of all about Kane, about Jude Bellingham. Kane does an amazing job dropping back when he needs to. And he can also apply that spark on the offense to create something out of nothing, like you saw against DR Congo. By the way, I'm very sad to see Freddie Gibbs out of the tournament now. Like, damn, that really sucks, but you know what? Go work on a new Alfredo. Go make Palm Olive Part 2. But anyways, yeah, Harry Kane could prove to be a problem. And by the way, this is going to be the best attack that we've faced so far. This is world-class talent. This is a world-class attack. But I know that we're ready for it, okay? We have a world-class defense. I mean, I think we can say that at this point. 0 goals conceded. I don't care what teams or clubs they play for. This is a world-class defense that isn't going to be broken down by individuals. It can maybe score you a goal, but it won't win you a game. And it certainly won't win you a tournament. I'm sorry to say, England fans. I can't believe I'm saying this at this point about Mexico. Like, this is Mexico we're talking about. I think for my entire life watching football, I haven't seen a group of players play this insane. On the Mexico level, at least. Now, I don't think I'm as old as some of you unks out there, but I don't remember the 2002 World Cup. I don't remember the heartbreaks. I don't remember any of that. I remember how good we looked in 2014, and that was an amazing, amazing Mexico squad with some of the historic Mexican players. But I'll tell you what about these players. They say fuck history. We're going for it because we don't get scared against these national teams. No se achican against some of these national teams. It's like how a lot of Liga MX teams fold and crumble when they play America because of the hierarchy. Like, that's just kind of what it is. And that's what football is sometimes, like I mentioned. This is a very, very special group of players. But to be honest with you, now is not the time to get emotional or sappy about this Mexican national team because we have a job to do. And that job is beating England. And after that, the sky's the fucking limit. And that brings me very eloquently and beautifully to my prediction for this match. And no, it's not going to be 7-0 like I said in my last video. But depending on what kind of fan you are, you might say that this is equally as ridiculous. I'm going 3-1. I'm going 3-1, man. I'm going 3-1. First of all, I think the streak will end. I think we have to put enough respect on England to say that they'll score a goal on us. And that's just an insane thing to say, by the way. I didn't think I would ever get to this moment of saying, yeah, we respect England enough to let them score a goal on us. But I truly believe that this is how the game's going to play out, okay? It could be 1-1 at the half. It could be 2-0 at the half. And then the second half comes, and it's just a slow game, just like how it was against Ecuador. And because it's a slow game, England will be terrified because they don't want to go to extra time. And this is where the altitude comes in as well. These players will fold. They will crumble at the Azteca. I know for a fact Quiñones is going to score. Raúl Jiménez will probably score as well. And I'm going to have to say a goal from Romo as well. Yeah, I don't know why. I'm just kind of feeling it like this. I think this is a game where you could see Memote coming in instead of Santi Jiménez. I think Santi Jiménez had a pretty average game against Ecuador. Yes, he got the red card, but that's kind of it. I mean, to be fair, Memote kind of had an average performance against Czechia, but I think he has more to prove against England. And I'm not a Memote glazer, I promise. But yeah, 3-1. I'm really hoping for a Mora goal this time. I'm really hoping and praying for it to happen. If it does happen, it'll be in the first half, very early on. But I'm not counting on it, unfortunately. Then I'm going for a Harry Kane goal, most likely in the second half, where we're sitting back and soaking up pressure. But that's about it. And we could score another goal after that to make it 3-1. I could also see it 2-1, but that's a little bit too not comfortable for my liking. I think we're going to make it kind of comfortable at the end of the day. Maybe I'm not putting enough respect on England and on Tuchel's tactics, but honestly, I haven't seen much from these guys. Again, they don't play as a unit. They play as individuals. I think that's only going to take you so far, and I think the ride stops here at Mexico. This is a very, very tough game. The English fans know that. The English media knows it. The English squad knows it. Everyone knows it. I forgot to mention the starting 11 as well. I think it's going to be the exact same as we started against Ecuador. I have nothing really much more to add to this, but I do want to mention one thing at the end here, and it's the fact that Mexico plays to our opponent. Now, I kind of broke down in like one sentence each of our opponents and how we attacked them and how we defended them, how we played them pretty much. And this is kind of what I came up with. Let me know if you agree. Against South Africa, we had a very free-flowing first half, okay? And then we rode out the game in the second half. Now keep in mind, this was the inaugural game. I think tactics to a certain extent went out of the window, so we don't really have to pay too much attention to the South Africa match because South Africa looked completely different after this match. South Korea was the first real test, and this is because they had fast attackers with very good dribbling, okay? So the first half was composed of just playing patient, soaking up the pressure, making it a really boring game in the first half at least, and then we can attack creatively in the second half. And I know the goal came out, of fortune or whatever, but that doesn't change the fact that we did play much better attacking-wise in the second half. Again, this is because of the fast attackers. This will be very important when it comes to a game like Brazil, if we do manage to beat England. Against Czechia, this was back at the Azteca. It was a free-flowing first half again, and we rode out the game in the second half. Czechia had nothing going forward, and this was the best match by Gilberto Mora so far. And we learned lessons from it, for sure. Ecuador, they just had a really, really solid defense with some world-class players. Again, we had a free-flowing and creative first half with Mora, and we rode out the game in the second. Now against England, I have no doubt that the first half will be free-flowing and creative. Is there a chance to have like a South Korea-like first half? Possibly, but I think we'll have enough confidence, especially with that game against Ecuador, to really take it to the English, especially since England has been getting scored on in the first half a lot. So we're going to have to really come out and attack in the first half. They're going to keep the altitude in mind as well, and then in the second half, it's going to be difficult, very, very difficult, because they will really turn it up in the second half. Unless the altitude really gets to them, then we can ride out the game like normal. But no matter what, we have enough depth in the squad that we can make the necessary changes and ride out the game like we've never done before. And this breakdown has gone way too long, so I gotta end it here. But I did want to mention that at the end. What is going on, everyone? It is Utopic Draco Future, but I'm feeling pretty dystopic right now because we are in the worst timeline. And yes, we did lose to England a couple days ago. I know I'm late with this video, but I kind of of wanted to get my thoughts together, and I wanted to go through the match itself and then sort of talk about some of the takeaways that we got from the tournament as a whole. There's so much to talk about in regards to this Mexico World Cup, what the future holds, what it looks like. So please hit subscribe because we're not done with the content. Like the video, we still got World Cup content coming. I'm going to try to cover the rest of the World Cup. But listen, let's talk about this game because I predicted 3-1 and pretty much the opposite happened. Let's talk about the match recap here. And I did put sad in parentheses because I am sad about this. But as we'll get into a bit later, I feel like I'm a bit less sad than I expected to be, and that's because I feel like there's a lot of important takeaways in regards to this game. If you drown out all the noise from the Fútbol Picantes of the world and all of the Mexican mainstream football media, which will always be negative for clicks and views. I mean, there's definitely reasons to be negative, and I will definitely get into that. I might even make an entire video talking about the winners and losers of the World Cup. There's a lot of winners for sure, but there's a lot of losers. There's a lot of losers. Okay, so first of all, we went out there, just like how everyone was saying before the game. The Azteca mattered, the fan support mattered, the occasion mattered. A lot of people, including myself, thought that England would crumble because of that pressure, and it actually made them a lot better. And that's maybe something I didn't cover too much in my preview, just based on what we saw from England so far in the tournament. Make no mistake, they played their best game of the tournament so far. Possibly the best English performance that I've seen in my entire life as a football watcher. If I'm not mistaken, I mean, I know the Euros run was pretty impressive, but if we're talking World Cups, I think this is the best performance that England has put on. And don't get me wrong, it doesn't matter about the opponent, because Mexico was always going to be a tough game, okay? We went into the Azteca. You have so many things against you. Again, the fans, the occasion, the altitude, which I thought was going to be a bigger factor. It turned out to not be as much of a factor. I mean, the English players truly knew how to step up to the occasion, and that's not something that you can teach. That's something that you can teach in Europe. We'll get into that a bit later, but again, we're going into the game here. We came out from the starting whistle looking amazing. We played some of the best football that we've seen from Mexico in this World Cup so far. Raúl Jiménez was on a tear. Mora looked unstoppable. We almost got our first goal. I think it was actually a couple goals that we could have got there. And then it happened, okay? Because Saka came in on that left-hand side, got past Gallardo, put in a good cross, Piojo loses his mark, and Bellingham scores. And you're like, fuck, this is completely against the run of play. But then when you really think about it, right, it's like, okay, we were going at him. We could have almost scored. We're playing better. We can get a goal back. Okay, it was a lapse of concentration. First goal we concede in the entire World Cup, by the way. And then something very curious happens because we lose concentration, and it's Mora. Yes, I know he's 17, but there's a reason why he's in this World Cup right now, because he is mature beyond his years. So yeah, he definitely deserves some criticism, because he truly is a great player, but great players get criticized as well. So I don't care if he's 17, Mora needs to do better there, but it also tells me a bigger thing here, and that's the fact that we lost concentration for the second time in like 2 minutes, immediately after the kickoff, and I genuinely thought to myself, fuck man, we might actually get Brazil'd here. We might actually get 7-1. You know, like that's genuinely what was going through my mind. We'll talk about it a little bit later, but I feel like a different Mexico team could have completely capitulated after that second goal. Okay, I mean, we were playing so much better. And then you get two dunked on you at the same time. It's like, fuck, man. And then for a while after, we kind of regain concentration. Quiñones comes in, clutch like he always does. Shout out to Quiñones. He had a hell of a tournament. And he scores. And it's an amazing goal. Bit of a loss in concentration on England's side this time when they completely leave Quiñones by himself on that set piece. But it was an amazing goal, and it was right before the half. It's exactly where you needed it. Halftime comes. Edson comes in for Montes, and you feel like this is kind of where the game changes because Montes was having a hell of a game. I heard that he was injured, but Montes was having a hell of a game, and you have to criticize Edson here because he really fucked things up towards the end. And we're going to talk about a lot of players' mistakes. We're going to get into that, okay? But for now, let's talk about the red card. I mean, it was a good call. I don't think there's really much to say here or much to debate. A lot of people were saying stuff about the ref. I think the only mistake that the ref really had in this game was putting 11 minutes. I think that was a little bit too long at the end there. But the red was legitimate. That was a good call. And from that point forward, England has to change their game plan a little bit because that's when Stones comes in. That's when they have to start defending. And yes, they were down a man. That's kind of what you do when you're down a man and you're 2-1 up. Like, you have to hold on to the lead. because this is a dangerous opponent. Don't get it twisted. Mexico was a very dangerous opponent for England. So Stones comes in, and they're going to start playing more defensive from this point forward. Immediately after, another lapse of concentration, and we give away a penalty to Harry Kane. And again, this is a good call. It was absolutely a penalty. It comes in from a lack of concentration. We lost concentration. That's the main thing here. And it's something that I brought up in my preview as well from an England perspective. And I definitely should have mentioned it from a Mexico perspective, because despite the positives of this Mexican team, there's mistakes in the team. But the point is, and this is what all good national teams do, they make their mistakes not as an issue. We couldn't do that in this game, and we gave away a penalty completely against the run of play again, just like the 2 goals, and he slots it in. Easy as pie. And now we're down 3-1, and you're like, we have to go for it. They're defending with their lives. You have to go for it. 66th minute, we get another penalty. Again, it's a good call on Brian Gutierrez. Harry Kane absolutely kicks him, and then Raúl Jiménez slots home the penalty to make it 3-2. And from then on, I mean, from a neutral perspective, I mean, we'll see about some of the quarterfinal matchups, but definitely the best game of the World Cup so far. Because you just saw fucking attack after attack after attack, and honestly, this is where the grit and the determination of England comes in. They had the winner's mentality. They had the mentality of a grande to see out this game. Exactly how we did to Ecuador. The big teams always find a way to win, and that brings me to Jude Bellingham. Because Jude Bellingham, I mean, it goes to show the talent gap between Jude Bellingham and anyone on the Mexican national team, because he was everywhere. He was absolutely everywhere. On defense, on offense, when he got the ball in the midfield, he would not lose it. He would make a dangerous forward run and would not lose the ball. Didn't matter who was on him. Lira probably took it away from him a couple times. Hell of a game from Lira as well. But Jude Bellingham showed his levels that day. On one of our corners, Cesar Montes got the ball in a perfect position to score, and Jude Bellingham was the one that saved them. There was a couple of occasions like that. I mean, Pickford also had a hell of a game. Shout out to Pickford. Raúl Jiménez could have had a hat trick this game. That's how good Pickford was. But Jude Bellingham proved, I think more than anything else, that this World Cup is going to be won by a team that's clutch. I think that's why you're seeing a lot of these kind of nations that aren't as experienced not do too well in this World Cup. Because the grandes of the world find a way to win no matter what. And that's what you saw tonight. Jude Bellingham played absolutely exceptional. Probably the best performance that I've seen from Jude Bellingham, just period. Maybe I don't watch Real Madrid enough, but the guy was on fire. And here's something that I want to talk about more than anything, because we had a lapse of concentration for 4 minutes. We were dominating the game for most of it, but that lapse of concentration is what killed us in the end. And again, this is what the big teams do. They take advantage, they exploit the weaknesses, and they win because of that. This was, in a weird way, probably one of the best teams to lose against. The reason that I say that England was the best team to lose to is because it shows us, as Mexicans, to everyone, that our players are just not good enough. They're simply not good enough. Mexico needs world-class players in order to take the next step. I have been positive when it comes to the players, and the reason for that is because when the World Cup starts, there's really nothing that you can do anymore. You have to just support the team that you're supporting, no matter what, because you can't change anything, right? You can't change the squad after it's finalized, after the World Cup starts. You have to fully back your country, and that's my opinion. That will always be my opinion. But I think that this tournament and this game, more than anything, showed us that we need better players. And you're not going to find that in Liga MX. This is my thesis, okay? And I saw Fútbol Picante and these other places already pitting, America versus Chivas narrative, against each other, saying that it was the Chivas players' fault for the goal. Obviously, it was Piojo's fault for the first goal. I think that the mainstream Mexican football media has completely lost the plot. Like, they don't even know what they're saying anymore. I know they criticize the FMF a lot, and I do want to criticize the FMF, definitely. I would love to have those conversations probably in another video. But I'm not too mad about this result, because with the plantel that we have, a sort of Liga MX-focused plantel, you just can't beat in England. You just can't do it with the players that you have. I think that shows everyone. I hope that everyone is kind of waking up to that fact now. Liga MX does not have the system to produce those world-class players. Other leagues have figured it out, by the way. The Argentines have figured it out because their league is complete dog shit. They know that the only way you can compete is to go to Europe. That's the truth. I saw Faitelson tweet this immediately after the match, and he's completely right about it. A broken clock is right twice a day. The answer is not domestic. The answer is in Europe, okay? Because unfortunately, the Europeans have a better league structure, and I think that since most people realize that, I think that a player like Mora realizes it, and that's why he's getting links to Liverpool. I mean, that's not the entire reason, but I think he does want to go to Europe and be better. I would say even if it's not Liverpool, go to Europe no matter what. If it's a Brighton, if it's an Eredivisie team, I'm not even kidding, by the way, like, go to those teams, because the answer isn't found in Liga MX. In Liga MX, you don't learn how to grit down. And this kind of goes into the point of that a lot of people have talked about in terms of, did we deserve to lose? And my answer to that is, I mean, I don't really care. It's not an answer, but I don't care about if we deserve to lose. I don't care about that, because it doesn't matter if you deserve to win. It's just whoever wins. Do you think Arsenal deserved to win a lot of their Champions League ties? No. They gritted down and they found a way to win. It doesn't matter who played better than who. It really doesn't matter. That type of grit and mentality that we saw from the English today is because they play for clubs in Europe that have gone through that have gone through the process of the Champions Leagues, of the heartbreaks, of the grueling 10 or 20 minutes of seeing out a result. They've seen that. And Liga MX, while we do have that from time to time, it's just not the same. You need to do this at the highest level. That's what you saw from Bellingham today. That's what you saw from Kane today. That's what we need to see from Mora. That's what we need to see from the next generation. I think there's definitely a lot of nuance to the conversation. I do think that the Liga MX does deserve to be taken to the next level. I do think that over the next few years, the development of the league is going to get better, and I will welcome that. As an America fan, I will welcome that. I will welcome being led into Libertadores. But for now, and I mean the not necessarily the short term, but kind of the longish term, if that makes any sense. For now, the answer's in Europe. And this should be blatantly obvious to everyone who saw the game. Here's something that I want to talk about as well, and I think this is probably the most important part of the video. For all of us Mexicans out there, and, you know, if you're hating on the Selección, if you're saying jugamos como nunca, perdimos como siempre, I think it's time to wrap it up. You know, I think it's time to wrap it up. And I feel, listen, maybe if I was a bit older and more cynical, I would fully buy into this idea, the jugamos como nunca, perdimos como siempre, but I just don't. And this is what I'm kind of talking about when I say I'm not too disappointed with the result. Like, I'm trying to view it from the perspective of, you know, maybe a Mexican that has been disappointed over and over and over. And yes, it is grueling, for sure. And I understand it to a certain extent because I have seen Mexico fail over and over again. Listen, to be Mexican is to suffer. I fully agree with that. But I can't buy into that because my message from the very beginning has been a message for the youth, for the future. That's why they call me Utopic Draco Future. That's why I used Gilberto Mora as an example when talking about the Mexican fans in my Mexican fans video. Go watch that, by the way. It's a great video. I think it's one of the magnum opuses of my channel. But I used him as an example because Gilberto Mora represents Mexican youth that will change the mentality of the average Mexican football player. I think Mora represents this kind of new generation of Mexicans that doesn't necessarily remember shit for a good reason. You know, they don't necessarily remember the heartbreaks. And if they do, it's the recent ones, not the ones that have poisoned the minds of the older Mexican generations, okay? This England heartbreak is what they're going to remember. And that's a good thing because you're going to either completely fold or be better because of it. I feel like a lot of older Mexicans have the mentality of, you know, we keep trying and we keep failing, so what's the point of trying, you know? And I don't, this is not to shit on the Mexican legends. I think there's a time for a complete rebuild. And I think with the ushering in of the newer generations that will be brought on by Rafa Márquez, that understands playing Mexican football from a youth level, from achieving éxito at the European level, I think he will understand it. I think he will use a lot of the younger generation. I hope that he will. I think he will use a lot of the youth players. I feel like throughout history, on a Mexican level, se achican against those bigger teams. Against England, it was a little bit different. I think I noticed a bit of a difference because, like I mentioned, when those 2 goals got scored against us, well, when we immediately got scored on after we got scored on the first time and it was 2-0, I genuinely thought that they could score another 5 like we did against Chile, and it would be a complete embarrassment. Again, I thought we were going to get Brazil'd, but we rallied. You know what I mean? Like, Quiñones scored a couple minutes after that. We really took it to the English. This is not something that I've seen from the Selección before, and I think that's why I feel a little bit more positive than other, content creators, because I think this is a new mentality. At the end of the day, I watched the U.S. get embarrassed against Belgium, and I'm glad that, to a certain extent, I'm glad that I waited a little bit to make this reaction video, because I saw the U.S. get embarrassed against Belgium, and if I was a U.S. fan right now, I would be pissed. I would genuinely be so pissed. Because it's the same shit happening over and over and over and over again. And for Mexico, it's not the same shit happening over and over again. And you'll get your Fútbol Picantes talking about, on paper, it's the same result. So it's the same. No, context is everything. Okay? But back to my point, I think this mentality is different. And I think that Gilberto Mora represents the new generation of that mentality that will bring us to the next level. Okay? To become a grande, you lose and you lose and you lose until you win. And when you win, you don't stop winning. And that sounds very simple, and it is, but there's so much more to it than that. You don't beat a team like England until you find yourself in a position to beat a team like England. Today it wasn't the case, but there will be a time when Mexico plays a team like England, when we have world-class players, when we have a manager that is great and knows how to handle those players and knows how to bring out their strengths, and we will beat them. And then after that, the sky's the limit, I think Morocco's on that path right now. I mean, we'll see how the rest of the tournament plays out, but Morocco, no one even paid attention to them prior to 2022. But they were doing their thing. They did the system correctly. They did everything correctly until they beat, what was it, Portugal or Croatia? I don't even know. And then what? Everyone's like, oh, fuck. The sky's the limit for this team. Morocco just beat the Netherlands, a team that has historical clout. Morocco beat Netherlands. Nobody would have even predicted that in 2014. You win it because you win it. The Gigantes of football came from somewhere. You know what I mean? I think Mexico has the capability, they have the fan support, they have the home advantage, they have a lot of things that are riding in their favor. A completely football-crazed nation. I think it will happen eventually, but there's things that need to be done right first. The system needs to be done right for Mexico to have any éxito in the future. What's going on, everyone? It's current Utopic Draco Future here, popping in for the third and final time. I just wanted to say thank you for watching this video. If you watched the entire thing, I don't know how you did it, but shout out to you. Please subscribe. Please like the video. Please hype up the video. I know the World Cup ended on a bit of a sour note, but I have many other Mexico videos coming very soon. The sky is the limit, and the future is looking very bright. I'll catch you on the next one.